I'm scheduled to go live in a few minutes, so I'm going to go get my tasty beverage, and then we'll get to work on what has turned out to be a surprisingly tricky shot. And so, kind of fun to explore the types of issues you might bump into when trying to set up something that seems like it'd be pretty simple until you go to do it and you go, wait a second, this is a little tricky. So I'm going to be back in about 2 minutes, and we'll get busy. Hopefully I made a couple changes, once again, as I keep doing, to my OBS settings, and hopefully we'll have a good solid connection, but we shall see. So see you guys in a couple minutes. Loosen up. Kyle's here. Well, I made a strategic error. Looks like OBS is definitely going to do its usual thing and blank in and out a bit, but, well, that's the bad news. The good news is the shots I worked on this morning went very well. And we see a pretty good parity in terms of the quality of the shot that I did here, which I guess most of the original art was done in Krita, and then in Tahoma, and then the touch up and the fix ups on the animation were done in Krita, and then I actually flipped that, and then boom, starting here, I did the opposite. I took the characters that were touched up in Krita, brought them into Tahoma, and did a bunch of secondary animation and lip sync with Tahoma. That went very well. And on my last video I posted some links so you can sort of jump to some interesting things that you may find worth looking at in terms of learning. So the last shot I did was this, which is an establishing shot. We're pushing into sort of this tower where Tianara is being held. Okay? That's where we're at. So it's kind of interesting. The very next shot is this. So you get this close-up of the lock. It's just a lock, you know, there's nothing to it really. You know, hand reaches down and flips open the lock. So anyway, like I said, it's kind of surprisingly tricky. So I'll do a quick recap on what I've done so far. You know, I've probably worked on this for 20 minutes or something, and my strategic error was that I purchased some gin. I was out of gin. But I forgot to buy more olives, so I hate when that happens. Okay, so let's just look at what we're doing. So I wasn't sure I was going to live stream anymore today, but it's like, you know what, I'm going to get a little more work done. Might as well jump in there and get to it. So let me just see. I guess the best way to recap, what do we have here? Okay, so the best way to recap what I've done so far is, let's turn these groups off. So I started out by drawing these I don't know what you'd call them, but these sort of brackets that are going to be screwed into the door, presumably, or pounded in, or somehow they're held to the door. So I draw, well, I guess actually this would have been the first one I drew. So initially I didn't have the shadow on there. I sort of baked the shadow in, and so what I did was I just used this little icon here to duplicate the layers, and then I just moved them into position. So the thing that made it a little tricky is that the sort of clampy things that are going to be over top of the bolt really need to be on a separate layer, because the bolt's got to slide underneath, so it's in front of this but behind the little brackets, right? So okay, so let's see what we have here. So we'll ignore the bolt at the moment and come back to this. So then what I did was, again, I just drew each of these individually and then just copied the layers. So I kind of did it you know, an unusual way, in that I'm not really so much trying to keep everything baked down onto a single layer, because that would make it maybe a little less manageable. So those are the pieces. There's the stuff on top. So I should probably name these. Let's name these brackets. And let's name these, what would you call those? What would you call the little mounting clips? Okay, well, since I'm a goofball, I'll just call them clips. Okay, so then we've got the bolt that's in between. Now the interesting thing about the bolt, if you think about it, and by the way, this, I also added a layer that is alpha locked to the bolt, so I could just draw these shadows, because no matter what the bolt does, the shadows will still be there, right? So you can actually see that probably if we grab this and slide it out from under here. As you can see, that's convenient. So it's maybe not the most elegant looking bolt item in the world, but the other aspect of it, I suppose, is that by putting the whole kit and caboodle in a group, so you got groups within groups within groups, well, two deep anyway. So we'll call this bolt, I suppose. Better save our work. Now this is interesting. This is an interesting thing you're going to want to be aware of. If you have a flat image like a ping or a whatever, and it has an additional layer, then Krita knows to save it as a Krita file as well. So if I hit Control S, it'll offer to save it as a Krita file, and I definitely want to do that. But if all your layers are inside of a group, it doesn't know. It doesn't know what to do. So there you go. So we've got brackets, bolts, and clips. Well, I suppose on the bolt we probably should have some sort of specular reflection. Let me see here. Okay, so this has the local shadow built into it, which is probably apropos. But what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to round this out and try to make that a little sharper edge. Okay. Kind of, sort of similar thing here. So it seems like we would need a specular reflection But for the most part, the specular reflection would not really, it would kind of slide under the bolt or the bolt would slide under the reflection as well, because, you know, the light doesn't move, right? And one thing to keep in mind is there's going to be a hand that reaches down and grabs this, and then we're going to animate the bolt sliding out. So it seems to me this would be bolt specular. We'll call this bolt specular. Well, if you keep things on a bunch of layers, there is an advantage to that, and the advantage is that, and I'm just going to go like this. I want to give a little bit of a hand-drawn feeling to it. So it's got that reflection, but it's also falling nicely under the shadow. So that works. So we'll just kind of actual size. Yeah, that's pretty big. Never thought I'd be drawing a bolt today. So who's out there? I got 4 concurrent viewers. Who's watching? I saw some of you guys on the Darren T live stream today. He had some cool stuff he was doing. Basically animating a seamless background underneath, I think it was Yosemite Sam. It's some kind of animation challenge that involves Warner Brothers, like a Bugs Bunny characters type of shot. Fun stuff, I suppose. Okay, so now what I find kind of interesting, this is going to be the actual bolt proper. Yes. And this should be alpha locked as well, so that if the bolt slides under it, we don't continue to see the white. So this would be the bolt proper. That's what we'll call it. All right. You never thought you were going to absolutely have the most amazing time drawing a bolt. But, you know, sometimes that's what you have to do. You have to draw the mundane stuff before you get to the cool stuff. Okay, so I think probably the most interesting thing about this bolt is that, let me think about this for a second. Now, technically, this is not a very secure bolt. Now that I look at it, I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit more specular around here. And then the specular is probably going to be, like, because it's on another layer, we can dial it down a little bit. Or maybe we'll just put it in overlay mode so that the spec, I don't know, I think it probably needs to look white, not gold-ish. Not adding that saturation. So the interesting thing about the bolt to me is that when it turns, we need something on the bolt that gives us the idea that it has in fact turned. Does that make sense? So what I'm thinking is, what we should do is bake in some, just some flaws, actually. So here's the bolt. What if we maybe sample this color, and then we say, let's take a little darker color and just say, you know, the metal of this bolt is just kind of scratched up from all the years of opening and closing. Really, that's all we need. Okay, so then if we go in here and kind of catch the light here a little bit, kind of the same thing here. Whoops. No. So catch the light. Boom, boom, boom. Maybe a little under there, and then it has actually rotated, right? So I'm just going to have fun drawing little nicks and scratches on a bolt. Okay. Not too shabby. Hey Max Power, yeah, I'm back. I just got working on this shot this evening while I sipped my tasty beverage, and I decided, you know what, if I'm gonna do it, I might as well roll the cameras, as it were. So hopefully we're not gonna be disconnecting too horribly much. I wish my connection was as reliable as Darren's, but not so much. So pretty weird, because we have a great internet connection here. It's just the stupid live streaming seems to have issues. Okay, so there's that. And now we got to think about what is going to be animated here. Really? As far as everything that's on the screen right now, I would say pretty much nothing's going to be animated. Now, one thing I would like to do is add a little bit of drama to the scene in, you wouldn't believe it, the dumbest way possible, but it kind of works. Is that I'm going to take the group that, oops, not that paint layer, the group that contains everything. So if it's all in groups, you can grab it as a group and make translations. So I'm just going to take the whole thing and put it on a bit of an angle. Now I could have more fun with that. For example, you could use the perspective tool to kind of push this off in the distance a little bit. And I would say that's a bad idea in this case, because it's flattening out the little brackets too much. And by the way, to be fair, there's nothing that explains how the heck the brackets are held on to the, yeah, how this stuff's fastened together. No! Kind of forgot that little detail. Well, let's just keep rocking here. Okay, so this is why I tend to like to flatten things out and not get into too many layers. Now, what we can do, actually, in this case, we can make this a little more manageable. Because, yeah, what we can do is we can merge the groups. So we've got the brackets on top, and we've got the clips on the bottom, and then we've got the bolt in the middle. The bolt needs to remain in separate layers. Otherwise, we're going to lose the idea of being able to slide the bolt underneath. So, the first thing I want to animate is I want to make it look like the darn thing turns. So, you know something? I'll be honest with you people. The people of whom the only people I know of are here are Max, because he's the only one who's identified himself. But guess what? I really should have actually put the scratches on a separate layer. You know why? Because if this bolt, we got to try to animate that it's going to rotate in 3D. You know, it's actually looping. It's turning this way. So that means when it turns, the shadows don't move and the reflections don't move. The only thing that moves is the bolt, and so the only thing that tells us the bolt moved is the scratches. That's pretty crazy. So, given that that's true, I think I should rethink this. I'm not going to solo the bolt. I'm going to solo the bolt proper. Look at this. I really think these scratches should be on a separate layer. So, by gum, it only took a second to do, and now I know perfectly well how to do it. So we're going to advance from dumb to smart by saying, you know what, we're just going to put these scratches on their own layer, and then what we're going to do is animate the scratches, because that'll show that the bolt got rotated before it gets pulled out. Very, very clever. Very clever. So we'll call this scratches. So it's not quite as glamorous as, you know, not as glamorous as character animation, but certainly important. So I'll just kind of, whoops, I want to use my brush, and I'll just, it doesn't really matter what they look like too much. Let's see. So what I really did actually was I picked a kind of a neutral color like that. Oh, little scratch. Little scratch. Yep, that'll work. Okay, and maybe one more. Let's just put one more little one right there. Okay. So then we're going to have that, and then I kind of took the specular, just a little bit of white, and said, let's just kind of grab those edges like so. That'll work. And it does kind of make sense that it might be scratched a little more kind of near where it slides under the brackets. If it's simple rotation, maybe export the image to another program to animate. Well, I mean, you're only talking about 2 keyframes. The problem is doing it in 3D. I mean, if you wanted to, a lot of people would probably say, why don't we do this in Blender? I mean, whip out a quick and dirty model. But that's okay. We don't need to do that. I don't want to go down the Blender road. So I'm going to say the typical scenario here is that you have about a second. Let's see, that we're going to come into the scene. Boom, a hand reaches down, basically at 1 second, and then somewhere around between 1 and 2 seconds, you're going to see this rotation. So I'm going to go there, and then the question is, well, how are we going to rotate it? It's a little tricky. What we probably want to do is actually, let's use the free transform tool to actually skew these a little bit. Little skew, little up. Okay, we'll just try that. Yeah, that's not great because, okay, that's okay. I wanted to try it, so that doesn't quite do what we were trying to do, but I know I can use the liquify tool now to fix it. So now I kind of know what to do. I need to give this a little curvature, and yeah, this will work. And this one's pretty awful in terms of losing its curvature, so we're going to have to whoopsie. Okay, that was stupid. Let's redo that again. I'm not paying attention to what I'm doing here. And remember, this is like a kind of an anime level type of, I mean, you know, in terms of the visual quality, we're not really trying to, we don't want it to look 3D, really. So B key, and then let's just kind of go back here and say, okay, well, we're going to do 2 of these. So, hello. So I'm going to put in just 2 keyframes to just show it kind of rotating. Somebody might not think this was necessarily the most clever way to show that the bolt's rotating, but in all candor, I actually thought it was kind of a good idea. So now I'm going to go like this and wrap that around like that. Yeah, it's probably better if we don't do too much liquefying. Maybe a little skew there, but that's probably okay. Then we'll just do the rest the same way. Let's go back here, look at that. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. So this is not the worst exercise in the world. Okay, that's slid over too much. And it also resized too much. So, we'll skew it back here. So it's not, you see what I mean? It's not really, it doesn't really look real, but again, this is really going to happen quickly. As I often say, so I'll just go ahead and sample that shadow tone and darken that in. Something seems, oh, I see. Yeah, it's because it's moving underneath the highlights, so that makes sense. Okay. So I'm going to grab this area here and just look at it. 1, 2, 3. Okay, that's not perfect, but I would say let's compress it a little bit. Yeah. Actually, this is the one that's more problematic. Boom, 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 boom. Back here. And I'm kind of a little nonplussed at how much that actually is distorting. But that's okay. Gotta do what you gotta do. So let's just pull this back like that. Pop it up there. Okay, and then we will use our brush to give it a little bite. And let's see what this is. Up a little. I'm gonna hit the A key and just kind of feel it as we go. It just has to look like it moved, really. Because you're not going to be looking at it. I guarantee you that. You're going to be looking at the guy's hand, probably. So it's just like, boom. So that's really all we're going to see. And his hand will pull this up. So when we get here, here's the bolt proper. So I would say if we we do that, then right here, in all likelihood, this will simply disappear because his hand will pull up, and when his hand pulls up, we definitely don't want to see this. So we'll just take that out because the hand will be covering that. Okay? And then, so his hand's going to grab it, turn it, and then pull. So boom, right here. This is where I would say, okay, we're going to commit now. It'll make our life easier if we commit. So let's go ahead and bake the scratches down into the bolt. So then we get this. And now we can go hit the A key and let's actually turn on onion skin so we keep this sort of lined up properly. But I'm going to do a slow out. And we'll really get that sucker flying. You know, think about this for a minute. I mean, okay. Yeah, this kind of thing, I've never really thought much about how a bolt works, but normally the bolt wouldn't just pull all the way out, right? The bolt would, you know, you're not just going to pull the bolt out because that's obnoxious. Then what do you do with the bolt? You're going to carry it around? Okay, it's a cartoon. We'll go with it. So the hand's going to reach down. Yeah, I mean, that'll work. Now, there is one problem. The specular, once we get to, let's put in a keyframe there. Because once we get to here, right here, we really want to change that a little bit so that we don't have this. So let's hit the G key and the E key. Let's erase. Oh, come on now. It did not erase, you little devilish creature, you. Okay. And then from here on out, this is alpha lock, so we don't have to worry about it. I mean, it'll disappear when the bolt's not there. But if the bolt is there but it's in the wrong position, it might show improperly. So what I want to do is grab my brush, my B key, and just change this reflection so that it's more of a straight, just a straight line. Okay? That should do the trick. So, chink chink, chink. Yeah, we got a little bit of a hiccup right here. Yeah, with the specular. So I suppose the solution to that is this specular should actually just extend all the way out like that. Just keep it in there. That's okay. I mean, again, you know, for one frame, you've kind of got this little objectionable thing there. If you wanted to, you could actually take the G key, GE, and let's just take it out there. It's not going to hurt us to add one more keyframe. So there we go. Save. So wow, that was actually trickier and required one heck of a lot more layers than I would have thought for something that seems like it'd be so simple. Okay, so as long as we're here and we're doing this, you know what let's do? I got a great idea. Let's take the bolt proper and let's duplicate that layer. Okay, now this is going to get ugly. This is going to get real ugly, but we're going to try it. So what I'm going to do, we'll see if it works. I'm going to take the bolt proper and actually put it in yet another subgroup. Because then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a couple things to this group. Mainly, actually we just need a filter layer. That's all we need. Sorry. So I'm going to go control. Well, no, actually, no. I need a transform layer as well. Transform mask. This is probably not going to work. This is where we're getting into the realm of what Krita doesn't tend to actually do very well. So we'll move the group. See, we're making a shadow. Yeah, see, we're losing the transform. Wait a second. Curse you, Red Baron. That was not correct. So I need to kill the bolt proper. So now all we have is the duplicate. There's the duplicate. And let's think about this for half a second. So the transform mask. That should actually work. There we go. Okay. Now what we want to do, since we're pushing Krita to the absolute limit, and you're right to a degree, Max, this probably would have been a little easier to do in Tahoma because of all the animation required. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a filter mask. And the filter mask is going to be the thing you might think, pretty obviously. And there's that. Okay, so now we're going to take a horrible chance and see if we can bake this down. Let's merge the group and see what happens. If it doesn't work, we will defer on the shadow for the moment. Looks like it might have worked. It worked. I cannot freaking believe it. Okay, in that case, let's do an overlay mode. Because remember, we're going to have a shadow for that guy's hand as well. But yeah, I mean, okay. I can live with that. So now what I'm going to do is take this extra obnoxious paint layer that I created, and let's use that to make the door. So we'll solo the layer, and let's just pick a, kind of sort of wood color-ish, and hit the fill tool. Okay, looking to see if there's any comments or criticisms. I wouldn't be shocked if there was criticism today. But yeah, so there's that, and now let's go ahead and what are we going to do with our wood? Wood's always fun to paint. Wood is fun to paint. You just sample the color. And then you say, well, let's go a little darker. Let's just put some wood grain in there. Right? A little wood grain. A little bit of little creaks and cracks. That's what the door would have, right? It's a wooden door. So we'll start with just some lines. It's already starting to look like a wooden door, which is a very happy thing. Very happy stance. Happens then. Okay. Now if you're going to do wood, this is my advice. Take it or leave it. Every once in a while, put a little extra flaw in the wood is a good thing. And then the whole key to wood is catching the specular from the cracks. This is totally what makes wood work. You go to your cracks and you just ask yourself, okay, well, where's the light coming from? And now just catch those edges. And then all of a sudden it's like, whoa, wow, that was easy, and it really looks like wood. That's cool. That's cool, man. And there we might even get a little aggressive with the specular. Look at that. That looks really, really amazing. And it's so easy. So stinking easy to make somewhat cool looking wood. Not 100%, but it's pretty good. And just kind of go through there and say, yeah, of course, you know, of course the light is gonna catch us. All good. Hey, Ino-san, how you doing, brother? Good to see everybody. Nice seeing everybody over at Darren's live stream today. That was kind of cool. Always nice to be, you know, part of the community of people who are wanting to learn about animation, I guess. Yeah, actually, this is kind of a pretty good looking shot. Now, it could be said that perhaps the level of saturation in the color on the bolt thing might be a little extreme, and it also, see, the problem is I really cannot I can't translate this or move it around anymore as a group, because if I do, what's going to happen is on all the future keyframes, the bolt will be in the wrong place because there's already animation keys built into the bolt. So I sort of have to live with what I have at this point. So that's fine. Let me add a paint layer, and then let's try to do this the simplest way possible. Alright, if you're going to draw a hand, Golik's evil little hand, reaching down, I should think that you probably want to keep it. What you want to do is draw it in the whatever position it's going to show up first. It's going to show up the most. In other words, his landing position, and then we'll backpedal and animate back out of it. Okay. So having said that, I'm going to actually hit the G key, and I'm just going to go like this. I'm just going to draw this. This doesn't really make sense, but it helps me because if I draw this stuff, I sort of get a sense in my brain of what I'm trying to draw, if you will. So I'm going to actually draw the pieces of his hand, and then hopefully as I go along in my mind, I'll see the silhouette that I'm trying to create. Okay? I hope that makes sense. It might not, but I'm trying. We're laughing. We're having a good time. Okay, and then Golek, you know, he tends to wear kind of a nasty green colored garment, so let's just go ahead and give him a little sleeve action going on here. And okay, that's fine. So now I'm going to hit Control M, and I'm just going to play around with, ask myself, now would this be a little darker or a little lighter or neither? And I'm thinking, obviously, hands are not particularly self-illuminating, so what I'm going to do is just maybe tone it down a little bit. Okay? Tone it down a little bit. Now I'm going to say, well, he needs some outlines. So working a little bit in reverse, probably to the way that most people would expect, because you tend to think of drawing outlines and then filling in the shapes. So I work a little unusually in that regard, in that I sometimes actually do it completely the opposite way. I draw the shapes, and then do the outlines. Less lately, though. The more I've been, frankly, the better work I've been doing, I actually tend to work more traditionally, where I just draw the outlines. So right, it's really weird. This is actually a really weird experience because I see this in my mind. Like right now, I see right there. I see a little fingernail thing. I see I see a little wrinkle there. I see a crease there. I see a crease there. It's a really strange OBS. It looks like OBS disconnected and reconnected. I'm not going to worry about that. I checked the quality of the stream, and essentially it looks pretty good. So I've spent too much time dinking around with OBS when I should be just animating. So as much as I love you guys, I'm going to stay focused on just doing the work, and hopefully OBS works pretty well most of the time. If you don't know, OBS is the software I use for live streaming, which is pretty much what most people use, I think. And why it wants to blank out here and there, I don't know. Loses its connection, and then fortunately it reconnects automatically, which is a good thing. fact, speaking of that, I'm going to check one thing on the settings. I wonder if wonder what the timeout is on that. Bear with me for just a moment. Just a moment, friends. Ah, yeah, it looks like the settings are about right. So, Inio-san. He says, "How's it going?" Hopefully it's going well for everybody. Okay, hit the 5 key to reset the rotation. So that actually looks pretty good. That actually looks pretty good, and I'm going to take it even further, though. I'm actually going to take it even further. I'm going to grab this. I'm going to put this in behind mode. So what I'm seeing right now is, okay, I'm like, yeah, but there's kind of a couple fingers missing, maybe, you know? And I kind of want these fingers to be together as a unit a bit. Kind of like that. Okay, I can live with that. We'll give the dude some fingernails. Oh, he's a creepy guy. Golik is creepy, 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 creepy guy. Not a good guy. Very opportunistic. Very naughty. Very naughty. Always carrying out evil plots. Oop, there goes Valerie. My lovely Valerie. Okay, and we're almost done with this pose. And so then the question really becomes, are we going to need any more than this pose? And I don't think we're going to. All right, let's just kind of play with this for a moment. If this hand goes like this, and it just kind of flips up. Okay, we'll have 2 poses. When it flips up, I think I'll draw it again. And then we'll pull it this way. Now wait a second. This would kind of work though. So I think I'm going to say that's my landing position. Let me try this. Okay, this is a very strange thing to animate. But I'm going to try it. So here he's going to pull his hand this way. So the one thing we know for sure, as I always say, man, you work from the known to the unknown. So if we're gonna do a looping thing here, I mean, you know, we're gonna move, then I'm gonna say, would it be like I'm doing a slow out? Just take it out of there. Okay, then this one can be deleted. I hate to say it. It's almost kind of ridiculous, but I'm going to go ahead and animate this because I'm going to have to redo it, actually, because obviously he needs shadows. And so the shadow is going to be pretty obnoxious. Okay, that needs to be like that. And then interesting. Something about the way his hand cocks around right there actually makes the pose work, even though I didn't think it would. So the problem we have now is that everything about it has to be redone, essentially, because of the shadows. But that's okay. We'll just work with it. Okay, so now the trick is going to be, we're going to bake in the shadows. Again, we're going to be bold. So I'm going to hit the G key. I'm going to alpha lock this, and we're going to turn the opacity down to 12%. Okay? Why? Well, we're going to go boom, boom, boom. And then I got to think about this in a couple steps. Step number 1, he's lit from above. So this whole thing pretty much is going to have a sense of being in shadow. So we might as well just kind of do that. Get the whole thing in shadow. Okay, so then let's kind of give a little bit of definition to the flesh of the hand. Okay, that's not too bad, but what about underneath? Wouldn't his fingers, you know, like have some shadows underneath them like that? Yeah, I kind of think they would. So And that I'm not buying it. Not buying that at all. So I'm going to go back one step and say, really, other than that little tiny spot right there, I think we're going to want to have this all lost in shadow. Lost in shadow, I say. Does that help? Maybe. Okay, so now what we have to do is rewind. Rewind. So I'm going to go here. Where's this one? Yep, there we go. So I'm going to just drag this back here. And again, we're doing what we call a slow out, meaning at the end of the movement, things slow down. He moves less and less as we get to the end of the movement. Here, okay, so we're going to little flip up, boom. Little flip up. And then again, slow out. So we're going to go like this. We're just going to actually make duplicates of this here. We're just baking the shadows in. And slow out. So little move. Bigger move. Bigger move. Maybe just a teeny hint of the hand and then get it out of there. So, alright, must go, Inio-san. Alright, see ya, Inio-san. I think he's probably already gone, but. Definitely a tricky shot. What did I just do? Did I just hit the K key? I've been in, I have been in Tahoma too long today, and I'm hitting the wrong hotkeys. Wow, that is shockingly good, actually. Not bragging. I'm gonna say this is gonna be 40 frames. I'm kind of shocked here. I really didn't think that was gonna work. Now, could it be better if I took a bunch of time to redraw his hand? Well, yeah, but who's gonna remember the hand? Boom, boom, you're done. That's it, right? So I think the thing I am gonna do is I'm gonna go back here to here, and I want to at least, what just happened there? I'm going to hit undo because I think I did something. Okay, what I want to do here, I want to find the position of the hand where we see the most of it, so it's probably there. What I want to do is hit the Control M, and I want to see about maybe pumping up the contrast here, which is obviously, as you can see, going to also pump up the saturation a bit. Let's go to extremes and see what that feels like. Okay, you say, not so sure about that, Dave. Okay. Well, let's change the hue a bit. Let's rotate the hue back around to a flesh tone. Let's tune down the saturation. We can do all this with the curves tool all in one shot. Look at that. Whoa. So the only thing I'm really kind of not liking is I'm feeling like maybe we really need to make these outlines bolder. And the problem we have is that we're already animated. So again, this is a good example of where being in Krita is a bit of a disadvantage, because the way we have to do it is put this in a group so that we can do a group filters or filter masks, which then get applied to the whole group. Actually, okay, let me stop that. If I added a filter mask to a layer that's animated, then it will apply the filter to the whole layer. The problem is it tends to create artifacts when you flatten it out and bake in the effect. And that happens a lot less if you first put it in a group, and instead of flattening the layer, what you actually do is merge the group. For whatever silly reason, Krita seems to be much more stable doing it that way. More reliable, doesn't have as much artifacting. So I'm going to add a filter mask, and then believe it or not, I'm going to add a second filter mask, and this one's going to be a curves. Where are you? Where are you? Okay. Okay, so then this filter mask we're going to use to make it black, and then we're going to pump up the alpha contrast so we get stronger outlines. It's really not helping that much. Oh. Well, it is a filter mask, so that means that I can... Did I do the... Yeah, I guess I did do the alpha. So what I can do is actually make this blur bigger. Hopefully that will help. So this is a bit of a stupid problem to have, but it is what it is. So I'm going to solo this layer. Okay. That's looking okay. And I'm actually going to turn this group off, and I'm going to turn this off too. So I want to really see what these filters are doing. Okay, so there's the blur, and then this is not clamping the outlines quite the way I expected. We're going to go down to... Oh, maybe I need to do the opposite. Ah, I am a silly goose. Look at that. That's what we want. Okay, so as long as we're doing it, why don't we actually tweak the lightness channel as well? And maybe even, I'm feeling frisky, let's even pump up the red channel, the low end on the red channel. It doesn't seem to make much difference, so we'll go with it. That's fine. So we're going to be bold, and we're going to merge the group and see what happens. Boom. Okay, so it's going to take a minute to process all those effects, but once that happens, we should have a nice nice bold outline on Golik's hand. So yeah, that looks way better. And did it work? It didn't work. Look at that. It did not work. What it did was it applied the color, but not the outline. Most unfortunate. But actually, that's fixable. That's fixable because you know what? Yes, we can fix this. Okay, here's how. And it actually is not even... Oh, my mistake. I made a boo-boo here, people. Here's what I'm going to do. First of all, did the outline work? Yes, the outline worked. So let's just turn it off so we don't have to think about it. Okay, so what I've got to do, obnoxious as it is what I've got to do is duplicate what I did here. That's easier said than done. But we're going to try. So what did I do? I think I did something like this. And I'm going to I don't want to do it as a filter mask. I'm just going to do it like that. And then I think I maybe pipe down the saturation a little bit. Yeah, that's fine. So we'll do that, and I'm just going to go through and go Control F. Control F, Control F. So I'm just going to... There's a slight color change there, but I think that's no big deal. So I'm going to go boom, 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 boom. Okay, so now we've applied that same filter to all those. And now, wango bango, he's got a nice bold outline. So I'll bet you when we turn this stuff on again, it's going to look actually kind of sort of okay. And we could really, really drive this home. We could actually really drive this home if we do a shadow. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Therefore, again, I'm going to be bold. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take these two layers, that's the outline and the hand, and I'm baking them together. Boom. And then, so we'll call this hand, and then what I'm going to do is duplicate it again. And then this copy, we're going to turn into a shadow. So let's put it in a group, and we got to do a couple things. Okay, first thing we're going to do is we're going to add a filter mask. And the filter mask is going to be just to turn it to black. Second thing we're going to do is we're going to add a transform mask. And a transform mask is going to be hit the A key, and we're going to actually put it down on the ground like this. We can't go down too far because we'll lose the arm up here, which we can't really do. So this is kind of sort of okay. I think it's going to be acceptable. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just Control E. I'm going to merge the group. We're just going to commit to this group, and again, it's going to take a little time for Krita to sort of calculate all those filters and transformations. But if we're lucky, look at that. If we're lucky, it'll all work. Now we can just take this layer and do whatever we want with it. We could put it in overlay mode. Look at that. Jim Dandy, holy gorgeous. That's great. Look at that. Now you're not thinking about, well, the hand's not perfect. That's the worst anime hand I've ever seen in my life. Well, you're right. But guess what? We don't care because that shadow's really selling it, and the whole shot just keeps moving, and so it's cool. Boop, boop. Look at that. Is that good? That's good. I'm right? Yeah? Okay. I don't even know who's out there right now. So this is shot number 348. We're just going to commit to it so we can get busy. Keep busy on the next shot, right? So this parallax move I did earlier today came out really nice. Did that in Tahoma, not Blender. That was done in Tahoma. 3D camera move. It's easy to do. Bet you didn't know Tahoma had an actual 3D camera, but it does. So I am going to open that in the project media list. And we got to render this thing. Let's render it. Control R. And this is shot number 348. Okay, I'm going to put this up on my other screen where I can see it a little better. I'm going to go to shot 348. And we're going to put it in a folder called render, which is what I always do. And then I name the file, or the image sequence. I name it the same as the scene number, the shot number. So that's going to be 348, and boop, boop, it's going to render. That's going to render pretty fast. And then we come back here, and we say, okay, let's insert that into the show. So let's find 348. There it is. Render, grab it. It's an image sequence. Boom. We're going to put it in at 8 frames a second. Stick it in there. Get rid of any resampling. And now we can take this storyboard shot, remove it from the show, clean the media pool, and let's see how this feels. Let's go back just a tiny bit to the shot we did in Tahoma earlier today with the plastic tool. Mel's kind of curious about who it is that's marrying the prince, and he's like, oh, it's that girl? He's like, oh, lucky prince. Grr. Alright, you know, little music, but it's early in the morning. It's kind of dawn's breaking. Little ominous sky. Not the happiest moment because somebody's in that little prison cell. And look at that. Whoop. Let's find out who it is. So there we go. We got to cut away from this as fast as possible. Boom, boom, boom. Boom. Right there. So let me see that again. Pop. Yeah, right there. So we'll just take this out. We don't need all that. All we need is just, we're going to hear the sound of the latch. We're going to hear the sound of the latch. Well, we can't hear the sound of the latch, can we? Because he hasn't touched it yet. Details, details. We don't care about details. It's a cartoon. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Don't be flaming. Don't be hating. Okay. So there's Tianara. So now, here's the thing. Tianara is being forced to marry the prince against her will. So the issue came up earlier today. Why would she be in a prison cell? I mean, wouldn't she actually be in some nice accommodations? And my argument was, well, when I wrote it, the idea was that she's in a prison cell. Just a temporary holding. And frankly, the whole point of this scene is that Golek comes in and actually takes off the chains and apologizes for the chains. So I think on balance, I think the little bit of a rough looking situation that she's in. Thanks, Max. Little bit of a rough looking room probably isn't the worst thing in the world. Now we could put maybe, yeah, we could throw a pillow in the corner or something. Some kind of a, you know, accommodations that aren't like completely nasty. But I'm actually really surprised at how well this shot came in. I think if I actually did a camera push, it would maybe be even better. Which means if I take this and at the end just a little push, right? So we got, so you kind of hear the music, and the music's a little bit dark because you know we're moving from the hero to kind of this negative situation, and the camera's just pushing in a little bit. Boom. I think so. I think we should do the push thing. I think we should do the push thing. Just a little push. No big parallax thing like this. Just a little push. Yep. There we go. That shot came out strikingly well, all things considered. That's what you can do with umpteen quadzillion layers in Krita. I need to eat my olive. Where are you from, Max? Where are you at? Been seeing you a lot. Are you in the US of A or are you somewhere else? Okay. Now what we got to do. We're still in Krita. We're going to save our work. Close that. Drag this storyboard image in. I'm going to immediately duplicate it a bunch of times so that it's just darker. Add an extra layer and save it. Now it's saved darker in the storyboard, and then this serves as our guide. Hey, Ajax. Canada, all right. I love people from Canada. People from Canada are always... The thing... Now, you can... Max, you can tell me if I'm wrong about this. But the thing I've always noticed from people... I used to know... I used to do, like 3-camera sports coverage. Okay. So I used to do 3-camera sports coverage for the biggest, baddest dog sporting events in the world. Flyball, agility, and disc dog, where they throw the frisbees. And was pretty tight, actually, with all of the top people in the sport. The guy that owns the United States Disc Dog the United States Dog Agility Association, which they got a lot of Canadians that participate, and Russians, a lot of Asians as well. But he and I are still good friends. But anyway, thing I always notice with Canadian people that you also see if you listen to interviews with people like Rush. Like I've always been a Rush fan. So you listen to Geddy Lee and Alex, you know, and of course the late great Neil Peart in interviews, or guys like Rick Emmett. Rick Emmett actually is from Toronto, and he was my main influence as a guitar player. Actually, nobody really, when I was younger, nobody really influenced me as much as Rick did, because I always liked trying to sing his high notes too. But I noticed the Canadian people, they just don't have the sense of class. I don't think that we have in the United States. Everybody in Canada seems to look at themselves as middle class, and there's just not this sense of, this sort of competitive sense of your value somehow has something to do with what you own. It seems like people's kind of value compass is a little more sensible in Canada. Am I wrong about that? It just always seems Canadians really see themselves as kind of, you know, it's really all about the person, not like how much money you have kind of thing. Just something I've noticed. Always notice that with Canadian. You're right about that. Okay. Well, okay, so I read that right. I'm glad to hear it. I've never met a Canadian I didn't like. I mean, that's the truth. And there's a lot of misinformation down here about Canada, in the political sphere, about, you know, up in Canada, they've got socialized medicine. Everything's socialist. You have to wait forever in line and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't think that Canadians... Right. So you guys, I think you pay higher taxes, But you know what you're getting in exchange for those taxes. I think. I mean, I'm just spitballing here because I don't really know. Actually, Windsor, the only foreign country I've ever been in is Windsor. And Windsor doesn't count. Right? That's like you're just like going over the border or something. Yeah, that's exactly what I did. I had a job interview back in Trey Parker and Matt Stone might. Are they Canadians or something? I mean, I'm just making conversation, so if the whole Canadian thing's just like not that interesting, then that's cool. But so what I'm trying to explore at the moment is why the heck am I not getting any lines? Why, that's never happened before. Let's check this out. Some things this is new. Normally if you start drawing in Krita and for some reason you're not getting any lines, it's almost always because there's a selection. Because the lines will only draw inside the selection, but I have taken pains to make sure there is no selection. And I'm kind of having a brain fart here where, what am I missing? Tell you what, just because it's late in the day, I'm just going to kill Krita and reopen Krita. See what happens. So, oh, okay. They talk about, oh, okay. See, I didn't even know who those characters are. Sorry about that. I'm just not cool. I'm not hip. I knew what you meant. Wow, that's funny. Yeah, I am just not cool. I am just old and social, or in terms of pop culture, not as tuned in as I used to be, frankly. Okay, scenes. What scene was that? I don't remember. Let's go back. 349. Okay. So I have a question for you guys. Okay, that happens often. I've never had it happen. Huh. That's weird. No, if you mean realizing you're not getting a line because you have a selection and didn't realize it, now that I've done plenty of times. But just drawing and having nothing happen, see, now it's back. So that's weird. I haven't really had that happen with Krita too much. So my question to you guys is this tonight. We got 8 people here, and I'm wondering, I'm bouncing, as you guys can see. Of course, this parallax shot was done in Tahoma, whereas this one was done in Blender. But it's pretty much the same thing, you know. This shot was done in Tahoma and then brought back to Krita to touch up the art. And then I actually took the static characters and cut and pasted them into Tahoma. And this shot went really well. This is almost all plastic tool other than the facial animation. So I'm becoming increasingly agnostic. I tend to be more comfortable in Krita, but my question for you guys is, what do you guys do? I mean, are you guys Krita people or are you guys Tahoma people? When I say Tahoma, I mean OpenToonz, because practically speaking, they're the same. What are you guys using for whatever it is you're doing? Tell me, answer the question. Just gonna draw this. Gotta give her chains. This is the fun part. We love to draw. Love to draw. So what are you guys doing? You guys Krita people? You're Blender 2.9. Oh, Max. I tell you, I've spent a lot of time with Blender 2.9. If it really made sense for my 2D animation workflow with the grease pencil, I'd be using it. And I have done it. I mean, I could show you a bunch of shots from the anime I was working on before I started doing this thing that were all done in Blender 2.8. Not 2.9 really, because that was a little while ago, but start using Tahoma? Okay. Well, if you're paying attention to Darren T's YouTube channel, I think everyone that knows Darren here would probably agree. He's, Darren's really good about, he's kind of all about Tahoma or OpenToonz, but it's mostly Tahoma, I suppose, usually. So he's more about an exhaustive teaching you the software. Whereas I'm not. I'm creating a cartoon. I'm all about the show. I'm all about the storytelling, the script, the animation work. You know, I'm not really fixated on the software as much, although I try as best I can to sort of describe what I'm doing while I'm doing it. Yeah, I'm using a digital XP Pen Digital Artist 15.6. So 15.6 inch screen. I've actually got two of them. I got an extra one when my son wanted to start doing some drawing, and I figured, okay, I'll have a backup. But I've been very happy with it. Super stable drivers. In fact, actually, just today, I plugged it in on my studio machine. One of my two studio machines and my laptop both run Linux Mint, I think 18. And it was pretty cool. I plugged in the tablet and it just worked. Didn't have to do anything. No drivers, no nothing. It just worked. It's baked in, apparently. So I thought that was pretty cool. Okay, I want to hit the N key so I get actual size. Yeah, it looks pretty good. So let's draw TNR. I love TNR. I love her. She's beautiful. She's beautiful. Oh, I love her too much. Yes, I do. I really do. I actually have gotten kind of attached to this girl. I like this character. She's saucy. She's got an attitude. She doesn't take a lot of guff. And, well, you're going to see that in this scene, as a matter of fact. She kind of tries to let Golek have it, although it doesn't quite work out that well. So this is just an establishing shot, really. And we're not going to go too far with details. But yeah, that looks pretty good. Yeah, okay, drawing tablet. Okay, so I kind of got a little caught up there in drawing the outlines and wasn't really paying attention to her anatomy that well, so forgive me. Forgive me. So her elbow really needs to kind of fall down here a little bit more. And here we should have a bit of a crease in the arm. You know, so she's sitting there in chains, more or less, cross-legged. And that's pretty much it. Everything else is going to be the background painting. So this background painting is going to be a heck of a fun background painting to do. So why don't we get her colored in, and then we'll consider what we're going to do about this background painting. Okay, so I want to just kind of get her texture in there. Vike, you know, I think I've heard of Vike, but I haven't. I've got my standard, you know, old school tablet, which is not a screen, is an old Wacom. I think it's an Intuos from like 15 years ago. Still works fine on every machine I plug it into. And then before I got the Digital Artist 15.6, I had the Yenova. Yenova was kind of early to the party as a competitor to Wacom, and they didn't do the greatest job, but you know, they were kind of there for a bit. And they had this pretty small one, like a 12-incher that you could plug into the USB port, and it never did work very reliably. So then I briefly tried a Huion, and at that time, which has probably been like 5 years ago or something, man, the drivers just were not ready. They just were not up to scratch, and so I sent that one back. When I got the XP pen, it was like, there you go. Never looked back. It's been great. Great, I tell you. Okay, so what color are we going to make her garment? She typically is kind of on the blue side, I would say, lately. So we'll just go with maybe something like that. Let's take a crazy chance and hit the fill tool and see what happens. But I'm going to put it in behind mode. Oh, it worked. So I'm just going to click it a few times, and now I'll hit the G key. Because I'm in behind mode, I can just do this and fill in the little gaps. G key being the okay, good. The lines look pretty blurry. They are soft. I mean, I'm deliberately using a pencil brush, if you will. I do want a little bit of softness in my outlines. I could, yeah, I mean, I definitely could have really, really tight, crisp outlines, and I quite specifically don't want them. So that's a choice I've made. Just so you know, it's not really a mistake per se. Okay, because we're in behind mode, we can do that, and it's only going to fill in color where, and when you just when you see it play back, you could probably argue there's a little bit of softness in there, but for the most part, if we look at this at actual full size, so let's go to best full, you see it's pretty crisp, really, right? Look at that. So, what are you gonna do? Some of the earlier stuff I did last week, it's got a little bit of softness, but not too much. Not too much. Not too much. Okay, so good, half, and back to work. Okay, so bike might be new, found on Amazon. Yeah, I figured as much. Like I said, I think I've heard of them. Now what we're going to do is we might as well put it on a different layer just to keep things a little bit procedural. And if I hit the G key, which is the freehand path tool, then I can just kind of draw black in here like this. And I'm just going to fill in some shapes. Actually, I'm going to hit the E key and put a little, I want to have a little bit of a rim shadow situation here. So you're going to have because there's a pretty harsh light coming in the window. If you go back and look at the, which by the way, okay, to be fair, that doesn't actually make a lot of sense. Because when I did this shot, the whole idea was that it's kind of backlit because the sun's coming over the horizon. So, okay, so yeah, forget everything I said. I guess it's not a strong backlight. So in that case, let's do this. Okay, so now we're going to alpha lock it, boom, and then we'll just dial it in. And we'll make it not quite too harsh. And now I'm going to take the E key to go into erase mode and just kind of pull back out some highlights. Right? So that looks, yeah, I mean, that's looking pretty good. That's looking pretty good for our pretty girl. She's such a pretty girl. What do you say? Can you use the node-based compositing on 2D shots in Blender? I think the question Ajax is actually asking is if you can essentially pipe the grease pencil through the compositor. Is that the question you're asking, Ajax? If it is, I'll tell you, since I'm just blabbing here, I'll tell you that the answer is kind of not really, actually. It might be a little different with 2.9, but it might be a little different with 2.9. I am going to, I'm actually going to add another layer here as a second shadow layer, and I'm actually going to kind of do this, and I'm going to draw it out so that I can give her a tiny bit extra shadow down here around her bottom, and then just hit the E key to go into erase mode, and then I can just dial it in like that. That's pretty good. That's probably gonna work. Okay, so what you'd have to do if you're talking about the grease pencil, you pretty much would have to be thank you, Cyboy Koopa. You pretty much would have to render it out, Ajax, as an image sequence, probably with the OpenGL renderer. And then you're going to, actually, I tell you something, Cyboy. Actually, let me check something here. I often actually bake the shadows into the character. I'm pretty bold with it. What you do is you click this, so that alpha locks your painting. Okay, you may know this already, but if you alpha lock your painting, that means that if I paint right now, it's only going to and it needs to be in normal mode. It's only going to paint where the character is. Okay, what's going on here? Oh, wrong layer. Sorry. So I need to go here. So if I have this turned on, preserve alpha, then you can see what happens, right? So then you can actually just go to black, turn the opacity down to about 18%, 12%, somewhere like that, and just go like that, and have shadows that you bake right into your character. And in fact, I'm going to do that. That actually looks pretty good. And like I said, I tend to work destructively, probably more than most people are comfortable with. I just kind of commit to what I'm doing, and it is what it is. Here, I would say same thing. Let's bake a little bit of a shadow in there, and I would say we're good. So if I solo that layer, you can see that those shadows are kind of baked in now. So it's to each his own. I mean, if you want to be careful, generally it's better to do a shadow layer. So that would be a shadow layer that's alpha locked. Keep it on their own layer, and then you can always dial it in. You know, if it is a harsher light, you just dial it in. You know, piece of cake. And of course you can animate it and all the rest. So there we go. So we'll call this layer TIA for Tianara. And okay, so looking back at Ajax's comment, yeah, the grease pencil. Yeah, you'd pretty much had the images as planes from Krita in your parallax shot. Yeah. So if you bring in the images, if you're using the grease pencil, then no matter what you do, you're going to render it out as an image sequence probably. Okay. Thanks, Cyboy. So you're going to render it out as an image sequence, and then what you're going to do is you're going to map the image sequences or static images to planes in Blender. Once you do that, the normal renderer works. You don't have to use the OpenGL render, and so everything that you want to do, like, you know, lighting and whatever you're going to do, or compositing, is all available. It's just that the grease pencil is an exception to the rule because it doesn't pipe into the compositor in the normal way. There is a way to do it that involves the EXR format and setting up layers, compositing layers, render layers, I should say. But it's such a clunky way to do it that it's no quicker and considerably more complicated than just rendering out your grease pencil as an image sequence and then bringing it in as just a plain old image sequence. That's my opinion. Others may disagree. Okay. Now this is going to be an absolutely gorgeous background shot. I'm pretty sure. And now one thing we probably are going to do, actually let me look at the storyboard here. I'm thinking probably, yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually, I'll do this right now because it's going to look cool. So let's add an extra layer here. Boom, boom, boom. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw Golek in silhouette in the foreground. So what I'm going to do is just use the freehand path tool to draw his silhouette. Okay, so we'll kind of see his ears, and he always seems to have this big collar that he wears. So here's Golek. Okay, now I'm going to go like that so that I can pick up my tablet and draw another stroke. And so let's just get Golek in here. Okay, so Golek's got that big collar going on. He's got fairly broad shoulders. Okay, so here's Golek. Now it's not quite right. It's not quite right. He's a little more squat guy, so I'm going to actually just kind of squat him down a little bit. So let's hit Alt and make him a little shorter. Okay, so now Golek's in the scene, and I'm going to say, let's kind of tilt him in like that. Okay, so now here's what we're going to do. Let's go Control Insert. So now we've got an animation key, and let's just do a straight ahead animation. So I'm going to go like this, and we're going to slow out. So that means little changes, slightly bigger, real big, okay? And get him out of there. Okay, so now we have a little bit of a problem because the guy's moving in the wrong direction. So we grab these keys and we just click and we go mirror frames. Okay, so now when we enter the scene, Golek comes in. Now this is supposed to be 8 frames a second, so let's do that. And then Golek, we always want to let the shot breathe for about a half a second before we start any action, right? So let's just pick all this up and move it down to frame 5. And so now when we enter the shot, we'll see Golek move in. And then this next shot makes a little more sense because he opens the latch, we'll see him come in silhouette, and then boom, she looks up. Okay, so it all makes sense from a storytelling standpoint. And you know I'm all about the story. All about the story. Okay, file save. So now I like having him in there because it kind of frames the scene a little bit. I mean, And by the way, this is obviously a hiccup. Boop. Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Better impressed. I guess on highlights you'd erase stuff. Um, well, that's a fair question. I mean, like for example, the way I drew this, there's kind of a volumetric light coming in the window. So if I was really gonna do highlights on Tia, what I'd probably do is I'd say, all right, let's just do the same thing we did before. Let's add an alpha locked layer. You know, you don't have to add it on another layer, but what you could do is you could say, here you'd say, let's alpha lock this because Tia's in a group with her shadows and everything. So because it's alpha locked, now we can say, all right, the light's going to come in and it's going to kind of smack against her like this, right? Okay, but it's actually, because of this angle of the window, it's actually going to be cut off right there. Okay, and then we just dial it in. Boop, 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 boop. And if you want it to mix a little better with the color, perhaps you might try overlay mode. It interacts in a little different way. It tends to give you an increase in saturation as well, so it sort of melds with the existing color. So that would be one way to do highlights for sure, like that. And then if you say, I don't quite like that, I want to have a little more, I want to catch the lip of this, catch the lip of the hood like this, you know, little wrinkle there. You know, you could do that. Take it or leave it. So is that what you meant by highlights? Now as far as erase stuff, yeah, again, see, sometimes I will have a shadow layer like this, and I'll just put highlights. I'll just do black and white, because it's all really transparent, they both work. But if you have to really dial it in, then you might need a little more, you might need more layers or whatever. So it's kind of a it's a bit of a question of courage. If you're feeling bold, then you might just dive in there and bake it right into your character. I tend to do that a lot, but I'm just kind of guessing that most people would be a little more squeamish probably about that. Okay, so I kind of want to go with a fairly grayish, kind of rocky floor. So let's just pick a mid-tone color for the floor. For whatever reason, I'm kind of feeling the walls. Okay. Background. Oh, I see what I did. That was a boo-boo. Get rid of that. Okay, so the background will be a guide, and now we'll add a layer and move it down. Okay, so now, yeah, I grew up in Michigan, so not too terribly far from Canada. All right, so there's the floor. Now, just to make life easy, I'm gonna go Shift Alt Q, which is gonna put it in behind mode. And now, because we do have some light coming in the window, I'm gonna go kind of a tone darker here, and say, okay, that's gonna be a little bit more in shadow. And then maybe the wall over here will be slightly more in light. Okay, that's not really enough, and it's picking up a little too much saturation. So I'm gonna do that again. Just a little tiny difference, really, I think. All right, so I'm going to solo that. Yeah, that's okay. That's all right. Okay, looking at the comments. Do you see the character locked up before the door gets opened? Or is this the first time reveal? That's an interesting question. I don't really get too many questions like that about the story itself. Not really. Not really. What happened was, in the last sequence, there was kind of another scene. It's bouncing between Mel and Tianara, okay? We're bouncing between these two main characters that wind up being paired together as the epic goes forward, okay? Because this is kind of a 12-episode thing I have mapped out. But so this is where what has happened is, I'll just recap it real quick. No big harm in that. So I got to find... Okay, so what happened is, she's pouting, and so Balder is her mom's henchman. So she finds out there's something going on. She's pouting because of a situation that happens even earlier in the show. But the bottom line is, she's looking over there, and there's some kind of conversation going on between her mother and these other guys that she doesn't know. Okay? And then she's kind of pining because she knows she's in trouble, but, you know, she's kind of grounded or whatever, that type of a thing. Okay, so we skip ahead, and she has just found out that she's supposed to be married. So she's not at all happy about this. Her mother's like, "Isn't it wonderful?" And she's like, "No, it's not. I don't want to get, what are you doing?" And her mother is kind of taking the attitude of, "Oh, you should be grateful," kind of thing. So she's kind of upset. So we know, and she stomps out of the room. Teenage girl, So we know at this point that she is being married off. So in fact, the next thing we see is this. And so truthfully, it does seem a little bit abrupt or a little bit harsh that all of a sudden she's in a cell. So it could be argued that the dialogue in this very scene is pretty important. That's a fair question, BW. Can I pass on that question for today? I'm not going to answer that today. Because this is really being done for a distributor, and I intend for it to be released, the way any show would be released. It'll probably just it'll be available on probably YouTube, actually, but also on Tubi and all those types of platforms. So at the moment, I don't have any specific plans to take pieces of it and release it, right? So I may get around to it. We'll see. It's not a big deal. It's not like a big deal one way or the other. But I'm kind of glad that Ajax asked his question, because it is, from a scripting standpoint, I mean, this is the script. What happens here is you got the solitary tower, the bolt's undone, and Golek says, "Oh my, but you are the lucky one." And Tianara scowls. He says, "Oh, spare me. You ought to show your mother a little appreciation." And she says, "I demand." He said, "You'll demand nothing, young lady. You've been promised to Prince Vespar, and to Prince Vespar you shall be wed today." And then he actually takes the cuffs off her. So he's there's a little hint of kindness. And I think he even apologizes for the cuffs. And then he says to the servant girl, he says, "Attend to the prince's bride-to-be." So it's very clear that she's in a situation. Yeah. There's a company that's distributed the movies I've produced, and that's the same company. So anyway, so there's this interesting mix in this scene. This is actually a very important scene because we're really setting up her situation, which is a pretty harsh situation, and it's a delicate balance that Golek has to dance, because she is essentially in his power, but eventually, quite a ways out, she will ultimately be the queen. So he can't tick her off too much, right? So there's a lot that develops over many episodes. So yeah, this is actually a very important scene where the slave girl says, "Listen to me, Tianara. I know how you feel. I was sold into the king's service when I was just a girl." And then, of course, that strikes Tianara, sold, like the whole idea that she's a slave. She tells her, "You might as well look at the bright side. To marry the prince is quite an opportunity." Golek has already left the room. And, do you understand that if you play your cards right, that one day you'll be queen? And Tianara's like, "I thought not. Well, perhaps you can fix all the ills that plague the kingdom then." And Tianara's like, "No, thank you. Please, ma'am, it's been decided, and these sort of things don't simply reverse themselves." So that's what happens. So to me, it's a pretty dense scene. I mean, there's a lot going on with the character mix in this scene. The fact that Golek is actually a little bit gentle with her, takes the cuffs off her. I think I didn't see it there in the script, but I intend to have him say, "I apologize for the chains." She kind of forced that, though, because she was being so rebellious about not wanting anything to do with this whole arranged marriage. So it's really I don't know. The way I wrote it might be a little heavy-handed, I suppose. I don't know. We're just trying to make this up as we go along. So that's the story. That's what's going on. So now what are we going to do with this wall is the question. Let's deal with this wall first. I have to take a deep breath. This is a paint job. So I have some feature films out there that have been distributed internationally, and you know, have been modestly successful. And so my relationship with my distributor has sort of presented an opportunity here. We basically were talking about, actually about a year ago now, about this concept, and he sparked to it. I actually wrote it like 5 years ago, but at the time I wrote it, the market was going through a really rough time, and all these platforms that we have now hadn't really happened yet, hadn't really caught some traction. Okay, really? Oh yeah, I want to be in erase mode. Sorry. I want to check this. Okay, we'll just follow the guide. So I'm going to put this here. It's going to be kind of a rough window situation, but that'll work. Okay, and while we're here, we might as well go into behind mode. We'll take this color a little bit lighter, and we're in behind mode, so let's go ahead and catch this lip right here. Boom. And then, of course, I'll even lighter for this lip here. All right, so that'll work. So yeah, it was kind of funny the other day because I was talking about this a bit, and so I showed the trailer from the most recent movie that I released, which was 3 years ago. It's like a chick flick horse movie, you know. I showed the trailer, and then YouTube slaps me with a copyright claim. Copyright claim on my own film. Yeah. So I told YouTube, no. Whoever made the copyright claim is either lying or misinformed. And 2 years later, the copyright claim was removed. Did I say 2 years later? 2 hours later. So I don't know what's going on here. This is the second time today that I've seen Krita appear to just quit being responsive to the stylus. I wonder what happens if I use the mouse. Let me hit the B key. Yeah, it's still nothing. That's really, really strange. I've never seen that. Hopefully not a sign of things to come. Let's save our work. Let's just do what we did before and just close and reopen Krita. Blah, 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 blah. So yeah, I was, I made my fortune. Not really. I did okay in the world of sort of faith and family, sort of family-friendly movies. You know, fairly low budget movies. And let's hit the G key. Now it's working again. That is so weird. That is really new. Okay. Let's grab this and just go a tiny shade darker. We can always kick up the contrast. So what we want to do is we actually want to catch the shadow side of these rocks. So I'm actually kind of doing this backwards. I'm going to flip. Yeah, I'm going to flip the canvas just to make it a little easier to. Being that I'm a righty. So I'm just going to chisel in. I'm kind of seeing in my imagination these rocks. I'm seeing the shapes in my mind. And I'm actually trying to practice this. Like right now as we speak, I am trying to practice the discipline of imagining and really clearly seeing those shapes. Oh, I see what's going on here. Seeing the texture of those rocks in my brain before I put the marks in there. It's pretty much the key skill of the painter. If you're going to do, you know, like portraiture painting or landscape painting or whatever, animal, well, like wildlife painting. I've done a little bit of that. Should I show my wildlife painting? Should I show my wildlife painting? Let me see. Boom. Where's Kitty? Actually, I painted this last week. So that's actual watercolor. That's actual watercolor. But where is Kitty? I don't see. Oh, here's Kitty. Yeah, so that's actually acrylic. So, you know, whatever. So sometimes I do serious art. Serious art. And I really like the process of having to think about what the volumes are that you're trying to draw and really see it in your brain. YouTube is rough. YouTube is rough and Krita quit on us all. I'm not sure what you mean by that. What do you mean Krita quit on us all? And what do you mean by YouTube is rough? Was my live stream blanking out or something? Because that happens. There's no question about it. What do you mean YouTube is rough? Not saying it's not. It might be, but just wondering what that means. What does it mean? What does it mean? We don't understand.
No, well, you would understand if you paid a little bit more attention, sir.
Ah, yes. Ah, yes. Pay attention. That's what they say. That's what they tell us to do, but we don't really want to pay attention, do we? You know, watercolor is very difficult. Exactly. Oh, dude, Ajax nailed it. That is exactly right. I really had never, until that portrait I just saw was my second attempt ever at watercolor. And, man, my sense after doing like 3 watercolor paintings last week was that going back and doing like an oil painting would be cake. I mean, just cake compared to trying to manage the watercolor. So this is working. Isn't this working? I think this is working. You know, I always say when I talk about animation, I always say work from the known to the unknown, you know. So there's things I know I want to see. There's shadows I know I want. So get those in there, and then you begin to see the ones that you didn't see before, right? At least that's what I find. So you work from the known to the unknown. Get the known stuff in there, and then the unknown stuff will reveal itself. Usually. Sometimes sometimes a little harder. Takes a little longer. But I'm really going to go ahead and give this some randomized texture. I like the way it feels, so what the heck. Who cares? So right now I'm not... Usually I'm kind of maybe a little more focused on efficiency, but I have been finding that once I get into doing some background paintings, I'd just rather slow down and kind of enjoy the ride, you know. So, and my beautiful Valerie tells me that's a good thing. My beautiful Valerie, my lovely lady, she's a good egg. We were just marveling today at the number of years we've been together. She keeps me honest. She looks at my cartoon and she'll be like, "That's not bad." She does not dole out compliments easily, which is a good thing. Keeps me humble. Keep me humble, baby. You gotta be humble. Look at that. You just see these rocks just like emerging. It's so cool. Oh, I know James. I'm subscribed to James. In fact, I actually discovered James when my older kids, because my kids are 18, basically 30 and 32. Well, they'll turn 30 and 32. So, but we had Dinotopia. We had just like, I think we just picked up Dinotopia at a used bookstore or something. When, I mean, we're talking like probably in 1993 or something. I don't know. It's been a really long time ago. But yeah, so I was familiar with James Gurney long before there ever was a YouTube. But I'm subscribed to his channel. He's a pretty good guy. Good with gouache. That man knows how to use gouache. Which, by the way, yeah, they're a little quick on the copyright claims, definitely. But I understand it. They don't. The thing I noticed, I ran into this before, and what I learned was that if you are a creator, which I am, and you have a distributor, somewhat non-intuitively, YouTube with their algorithms and or their processes will assume that the distributor is the owner of the property instead of assuming that the creator is the owner. In reality, usually the creator is the owner. And then they license, like I've done, they license a distributor to distribute it. You got a license contract to, distribute it. Nowadays, that can look a lot of different ways, but I guess that would be probably pretty boring to you guys. Unless some of you are like budding filmmakers or something and are like really into that. Because budding filmmakers usually don't understand how the industry really works actually too much, is what I have found. Oh wow, I definitely see how delayed I was. Oh, I see. You were doing the catch-up thing. But look at that. That looks pretty good. Okay. Okay, I can live with that. Gurney does his serious paintings. He makes entire models and sets them up with lighting. Oh yeah. Yeah, and he actually does some pretty nice plein air painting where he just goes out and does like some landscapey type stuff. He just paints for a while, and he's really good. He's really good actually at the kind of thing I'm trying to do right now, which is, I'm not using transparency and a bunch of layers. I'm just trying to use the color well. Really let the color do the job, and that's quite challenging. It's quite challenging. It's definitely easier to cheat. Like if I let me think about this for half a second. Yeah, I mean, if I just turn the opacity down halfway, then it kind of makes sense to say, if this is the main shadow for these rocks, then you could maybe bring in the cast shadow from the rocks above like that by just using some opacity. Probably not a bad idea. I mean, it does make the job a little easier, that's for sure. But yeah, James Gurney. Let's go ahead and do it like this. Boom. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get the cast shadows in kind of one layer at a time. We might as well. It's not cheating to use opacity, is it? Of course not. No, you're not cheating. You're just being smart. Doing things efficiently. Okay, so now that's a little bit of a problem. We've got to get a little bit of cast shadow around these edges. Now that, I'm going to rewind. I'm rewinding. I'm hitting undo. I'm going to redo that. That was a little sloppy. So let me get the get the contour of the bottom of that row of rocks, and then we want to make sure the cast shadow actually follows the contour of the next row of rocks. Like that. Yeah, that looks maybe a little better. So then we'll be coming back in and doing some and we can clean this up pretty easily by just chiseling back in. So I'm pretty much doing everything with the freehand path tool. I'm not really even using regular brushes right now. I'm doing the freehand path tool because it lets me just well, darn it. Number one, there is no undo with real paint. There is no undo. You don't get an undo button. Ain't no Control Z for ya. So yeah, this is definitely more time consuming, but right now, because I've done a lot of work today, I'm just like, you know what, this is fun. I'm just gonna have some fun. Have some fun, man. Excuse me. But it is fun. I like it. It's cool. Okay, that was a problem. Let's redo that one. Redo. By the way, save your work. I always tell people that. Save early, save often. Otherwise, you'll be crying like a baby. Crying like a baby. Boo-hoo. All my work is gone. It's happened to me. It has happened to moi. Alright, so boom, 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 boom. So do you guys all do like animation, or what do you do? What kind of art do you do? Speak up, people. Tell me what you do. Tell me why you're here. What do you wanting to learn or whatever? Or is it just fun to watch somebody doing it? If it was me, that's what I'd be doing. I'm just like wanting to watch somebody do it. And I couldn't find that. I've lost a lot more than 2 hours over the years, my friend. I promise you that. A lot more. Yeah, it's you cry like a baby. Or you curse and punch things, right? Yeah, it depends on your personality, I suppose. But when I started, live streaming and whatnot, it was actually because I wanted to find somebody who was doing exactly what I'm doing, who's like actually making a real cartoon, and I just want to see the work. I don't really need a curated video that makes it look easy. Speed paints are cool, but I really wanted to find just somebody doing the actual work, and I couldn't find it. So I'm like, okay, I'll do that. I'll just do it. We'll just do it. There goes Kyle in the background. Okay, so yeah, that's pretty good texture. Now, what about highlights? Okay, we're still at 50% opacity, so why don't we just say, okay, we'll still let it pick up a little bit of the sun. Okay, so I want to really think about this. I really want to think about this. It's fun to watch. I do or plan to do comics. Yeah, that's what when I was in high school. That's what I wanted to do, is draw comic books and stuff. Okay. Just fun. I appreciate that. 'Cause that's what I would do. I would just want to watch, really. And I will learn. I'll probably learn a lot, but it's just I just want to see it. It's because I'm a visual learner, and so if I see somebody do it, usually it's like, okay, I can do that. I'm sure I can do that. I'll try. I'm going to go ahead and be bold here. Do what he was saying. I'm going to just actually put the color on there. Now I want to just, yep, I'm going to just really, I'm zoomed out a bit so I can feel how it's shaping up. Because it seems to me we'd be picking up a little more light. No. I don't know. I may not be good enough to pull off doing everything with opaque paint, actually. I may suck too bad. And we all suck to a degree, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with sucking a bit. Watching someone do something you want to do may give you some inspiration. Yep. It gives you inspiration, and it sometimes gives you techniques too, but it probably is more the inspiration aspect. So now there's a thing here that I want to do. I want to try and do this with paint too. I don't want to do it too much by cheating. So the idea is that this volumetric light is going to catch these rocks down here more. So you're going to see more of these rocks. So let's just go ahead and kind of commit to that. Down through here as it sort of chisels down this way angle-wise across the wall. So let's go ahead and give these guys, they're catching more of the light. Okay? I'm talking out loud here. I'm thinking out loud. This is what would happen. Okay. So, but there is one caveat to that. And the caveat is that actually they would only be catching that light that way once you get somewhat away from the wall, because obviously that volumetric light has to make its way over there. So that means what we really have is something like this, and we'll catch a little bit there, and we'll catch way more here, like that. Okay, that's kind of sort of working. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to split the difference here. I'm going to take this color, but let's go a little darker, and say, yeah, but up here, okay, that worked. Let's go just a bit lighter. Okay, so up here we do have a highlight, but it's not going to be as strong, right? So we'll tone these guys down a little bit. Maybe they're just catching a little tiny bit on their edges, on the just a little specular kind of thing. Okay, and then we'll jut this in a bit so that it sort of has a little bit of texture to it. That'll work, I think. I don't really know, but I'm gonna try. Okay. It never hurts to try. You know, it's very good to try. Disconnected and reconnected. So I'm just trying to use paint to sell the idea that this light is going to catch these edges as it's flowing into the room. That looks pretty cool, actually. And it would be fairly straight. I mean, it would be a fairly straight line of light. So maybe catch a little nugget there. Okay. Shoo-wee. And I'm going to go like that. But then up here, down here, I'm going to catch a little less. I enjoy to watch. I also learn things. You do in every aspect of production. Most people specialize in one. Right, exactly. Yeah, that's kind of my forte. That was my forte in film as well. I would write the movie and direct it and edit it and write the musical score, the whole deal. And that's what I like to do. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. And then 3 years ago, I'm like, you know what? I've made 8 movies. Been there, done that. I'm kind of sick of it. I'm going to regroup. And then after a while, I sort of decided, well, when I was in high school, I always wanted to do animation. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to create a cartoon. Let's just do it. Let's just go. Rock and roll. And so, I'm doing it. Ain't nothing stopping me. Ain't nothing stopping me. Ain't no stopping us now. We on the move. Ba-da-boom. So yeah, I definitely think putting these little chiseled edges in the rocks looks pretty darn awesome. Awesome. You deserve more views. I know. I know. Tell me about it, man. How can anyone not want to see something as great as what I have on my channel? No, I'm fairly self-effacing. I don't know. I don't know why anyone would want to watch my channel, to tell you the truth. Like this guy sitting and blabbing all day long talking about nothing. But I do have fun. No, I decided I have fairly curated content here on YouTube. And, yeah, well, you know, get the word out, guys. I'll leave it up to you. But a few weeks, and I don't know how long ago it was, but not very long ago, I decided, you know what? I don't want to take the time to, like, edit my YouTube videos and do everything else. I just want to do the work. I just want to work on the cartoon. So I kind of made a command decision to start live streaming. So I said, you know, I'm just going to document the process. If I'm working, I'll live stream. So that means that nobody's ever going to watch all my content because you would have to watch for like 7 hours today, just today. You know, who wants to do that? Pretty much nobody. But the thing, I tell you this, guys. Yeah, probably through viewers. Well, I probably get a few referrals from Darren T, for example. But the thing that has actually surprised me lately is just kind of looking at the traffic and seeing what people do. You know, I'm pretty good at kind of making connections, and I kind of was like, you know, I think what's going on here is there's a certain number of people that are actually listening to me, like a podcast. They're not even watching the screen. Part of it's because I've had a couple situations where I was on the wrong screen and nobody bothered to tell me. But that's not why I thought that. I've just kind of picked up on the fact that it's okay. It's like maybe people are listening to me. Now, we've had some really involved socio-political conversations on here. You know, I actually thought about creating a YouTube channel and call it Alt Center. I'm the Alt Center because I have a strong conviction that good solutions and good policies always come from the center place, but the center place is not particularly glamorous. Like, people are attracted to the left and the right because the principles extolled from the right and the left are simple. And theoretically, they should work, right? But actually, in practice, the work that gets done always comes out of the center because you sort of have to work with people who may disagree really strongly with you. And anyway, so I thought about maybe I should just do a channel and call it the Alt Center, right? Talk about all the controversial topics. And pretty much I decided, if we get into conversations here on YouTube, that's cool, but basically I'm too busy making this stupid cartoon to to do another YouTube channel. So that was that, baby. Look at that. Not too horrible, not too horrible. Not great, not great. I like the additional, I'm going to actually stay zoomed out here because I like the additional contrast. But I have a pretty wide-ranging bit of interest. I've got some videos on here that are life lessons for creative people because, I've done a fair amount of coaching for younger people that either want to make films or like my son with he's developing a business right now and that kind of stuff. And I like helping out a little bit if I can. Give the occasional bit of advice. Steer somebody in the right direction, maybe. Except for me, you were here this morning. Whoa, were you? Oh yeah, Oong, I remember. Well, I've seen you around, Oong. Are you the one who up north said you were in Canada, or was it Cyb? Sorry, I mean it's kind of embarrassing that I don't remember that. Oh, that was Max. Max is in Canada. Okay. Hey, there goes Valerie. I think I'm gonna take a 2-minute break and chew the fat with Valerie for a second here in a bit. And what are you doing back there? You going outside and feeding the cat? Yeah. All right. Okay, so here's what I'm gonna do, guys. I'm gonna duck out and hang with Valerie for a minute, feed the cat, and while I do that, it's kind of been my practice sometimes to, South Carolina, nice. Sometimes I just loop the cartoon for a bit. But Vegas looks like it's being a little bit stupid, so. But I'm ready for a short break. I've got to go. Hey, cool, man. Thank you. I appreciate you hanging out. Okay, there we go. So now we can just loop this. I'm just going to rewind. You can see from the beginning, actually. I'm not going to put it full screen, though, because that can make Vegas lock up. So you can probably see a bit of the progression, because the latest stuff I've done is really shaping up, and I've tried a lot of different stylistic approaches to the animation. So so this is obviously a little bit more simplified. It's less of a kind of an anime type approach. But anyway, I'll be back in 5. Where did I put my glasses? Oh, they're on my hat. I did that earlier today. I went and got my backup pair of glasses. I'm like, where'd my glasses go? For like 3 hours, I'm like, I don't know where my glasses are. Well, stupid. They're on your head. I'm trying to talk Valerie into bringing Zuko over to say hello. If she does, I'll switch to the larger webcam so everyone could say hello to Zuko. You gonna bring Zuko over to say hello? Okay, Zuko's gonna say hello. Here's Zuko. Zuko. Oh, there's Zuko. Zuko, you can allow yourself to get in the picture there, babe.
Oh no, I don't need to.
So, Zuko the African, give us a kiss. Mwah. Yeah, good boy. Okay, enough of that. Zuko, he's always kind of fun. Okay, so what we need to do now, I don't want to go too far with this because there's probably going to wind up being some, there's probably going to be a bit of contrast work done on here to make it all work, so I think I'm going to just divert to here. This is going to be even harder actually because, okay, so what we need to do probably is we need to go shadow a bit. Back to the G key. Better save my work. Save early, save often. And what I want to do is I want to get the edge of these rocks right, so they're gonna create this little tiny pocket of shadow in between at the corners, right? So of course I could, if I screw it up, I can always paint back in with the looks like Papagayo. Yeah, I mean he's a yeah, and he's named after Zuko from Avatar: The Last Airbender. Prince Zuko. We don't call him Prince Zuko though. We wouldn't want him to get a big head. But he talks quite a bit. African greys are regarded, with the possible exception of crows, as the most intelligent birds there are. And he's really smart. Yeah, they've got the intelligence of about a 5-year-old, but they've got the, what is it? They've got the emotionally they're more like a 2 or 3-year-old. Yeah. They're like a perpetual terrible twos to a degree. So yeah. So anyway, so now what I want to do is I'm looking at these two colors and I want to kind of split the difference between them a bit. Yeah, probably something like that. Maybe just a little tiny bit lighter. Little bit lighter. That'll work. Yeah, stonework is a lot of work. Okay, so looking here, I've been experimenting with parallax shots today and all kinds of 2D animation. Well, I did in the Ajax in the video that you may know this already, but the video I posted earlier today from when I was live streaming, I put in the comments a link because obviously it's like a 6-hour or something. It's really a long video, but I put a link. So there's one shot that was done with parallax in Blender 2.79 to be specific, and then another parallax shot that was done in Tahoma. So I don't know if that helps you, but it's there if you want to dig it up. You could definitely do it in hit film. Yeah, that's what Ed Tadeo uses. If you don't know, I mean, Ed is one of the few guys on YouTube. Tadeo, boom. Ed's in the Philippines, and he's one of the very few guys that are doing animation with Krita. That's, you know, pretty impressive animation. He tends to do little short things, and then he does all of his post-production in hit film. I was using hit film for a bit, just trying it out, but I've used Vegas for 20 years, and you know, you just kind of stick with what you know typically if you're really trying to get the job done. So, but hit film's pretty impressive. And I think they have an interesting business model too, where you can kind of just add capabilities. You know, the basic capabilities for free are pretty complete. At least it was when I looked at it, which has been kind of a while now. But so I'm going to actually add a little bit of variance here in the rocks. Okay, cool. They look great, thanks. Thought about testing methods, which is best for me, and hit film is 3D is far better than OpenToonz and so on. Yeah, it might be. I think that if a person's gonna, well, I would say this: if a person wants a program that's a capable editor with really impressive compositing built right in, hit film's a very good choice. I would say. I never really took the time to get it down, really. Okay, so what I'm kind of seeing and feeling right now is that I'm thinking I want to just kind of go across. Yep, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to just go across and maybe allow the vagaries of the brush to push this in a certain direction. Okay. Hey, 20 euros. Okay, yeah, oh, okay, wow. Okay. Yeah, see, I do a lot. I mean, with Vegas, the way that Vegas can nest the veg files is pretty useful. With feature films, what I've done is I'll typically edit a whole scene and then bring it in as a nested veg file into a main timeline, and then that becomes the whole movie. You know, it can get a little unwieldy with a lot of software once you get into a 90-minute film. Came with Ignite Pro plugin. Oh, okay. I'm not familiar with Ignite Pro. I would guess there's some, what are they, some like lighting effects and things like that or something. Okay, so obviously this row of rocks is a little smaller, so let's just kind of balance it out by having a row that's a little bigger. And I'm also gonna solo the layer so that so there's a lot faster ways to do this. I mean, you could even get an image of a real rock wall and then just do some processing on it to hide the fact that it's a photo, and then even possibly paint over it. So this is not this is not the most efficient technique, but as I said, I'm not really. Tonight I'm kind of in the mood to just paint and just have fun painting. Just like James Gurney. Let's just have fun painting. I'm gonna actually put a bump there. I'm putting in these down here already, like, because I want to guide the perspective a bit, because it really needs to kind of spread out a little bit here. I don't want to lose those lines. Ignite Pro. So what is Ignite Pro? What does that do for you? Ignite Pro. And we're definitely going to let some of that light seep in. Some useful none. So that's pretty typical with plug-in packs. Usually there's like 2 that are super cool and then just a bunch of filler. Like in the old days when you went and bought a vinyl record, that's typically what you get, is you get a bunch of filler and a few good songs. Unless you got Boston's first album, which I did around 1979, and I was kind of telling the story the other day how I actually had them because my parents joined the record club back when record clubs were a thing. And I had these like kind of amazing late 70s rock albums that I didn't even realize what we had for a couple of years. And then when I discovered them, I'm like, holy cow, this is cool stuff, right? Stuff some of you guys probably haven't even heard of. Like Journey Infinity, that was one of the ones we had that I didn't realize was in our stack of records back when records were what people had to use to listen to music. Oh, unless you're going to do the radio, obviously. So again, just trying to feel where these silly rocks might be. Back in the days of records. It has some useful animated effects like camera shakes, which saves you from having to keyframe it manually in Vegas. Yeah, the scripting in Vegas is actually pretty awesome if you learn how to do it. You basically are using a variant of JavaScript. So, it's not too bad. I've written some scripts here and there to solve little problems. Thanks, Steve. Welcome back. Wait, you're in the UK, aren't you? Dude, that's like 2 in the morning. What are you doing? Go take care of your woman. I'm kidding. I don't know if you have a woman. You might have a man. I don't know. But yeah. Not that there's anything wrong with that, to quote Seinfeld. Oh, I'm being silly. Don't anyone take offense when I'm being silly. I'm just being silly. 1 a.m. Oh, okay. So you're only... Is it actually 1 a.m. or is it 1:30? I know that somewhere there between here and Europe, I think we do. There's like a half-hour adjustment. I don't know. Okay, this is going to be tricky. This is going to be tricky. We want to give it just a little bit more light. And so what we'll do is... This is going to be really tricky. This is going to be tricky, people. But we're going to try. So what I'm going to do is get the... Okay, 1:30. Okay, so yeah. So you're 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1. So yeah, you're 6 hours ahead. Isn't it... What time is it in Germany? Is that like another hour? I think it's another hour later, isn't it? I got a friend in Wuppertal. And she... I was thinking she was an hour later than you UK people. But I could be wrong about that. I don't know. I just don't know. It's hard to know. Hard to keep track. Love my UK friends. Darren T, I think, is in London. Yep, 1 hour. That's what I thought. Yeah, Wuppertal. She was actually a foreign exchange student with our family for a year back somewhere around year 2000, I think. And she was from Wuppertal. Wuppertal. Gonna go slightly darker. Okay, that didn't work. So, if for what it's worth, you guys, when you're dealing with dark-ish colors, what you'll find is if you sample your color, just going enough off the color so that the little circle is actually almost touching the prior one, usually is all you need to dial in a highlight, as you can see. But what we're going to do is as we move closer to the window, that highlight's going to start getting brighter. That's why I said it's going to be tricky. And also we should actually be catching the tops of these rocks a bit with that light. So, yes, tricky is the word. Tricky. Darren T is up north. Derby, I think. Oh, I didn't know that. I was thinking he was in London for some reason, but what do I know? What do I know? Pretty much nothing. I really know nothing at all. But I try. I do try to know. One of these days I may know. I may glean some wisdom as I advance in age. Or perhaps I will be as stupid tomorrow as I am today. One never knows. One never knows. One never can tell. Can one? Alright, yep, making funny voices. It's going to be fun doing the voices on this show. I've decided Golik's going to be kind of, he's supposed to be kind of like this. He's sort of an Edward G. Robinson type character. Don't know if that's what I'm going to do, but... And then I figured I'd probably be Mel. I'll just kind of talk in my normal voice, you know, kind of a little bit pitched up a little bit, you know. Or maybe I'll have Golik sound like Professor Farnsworth. Comes into the cell and says, "Good news, everyone! We're going to set you free!" Oh my. Which character is the Edward G. Robinson type? The bad guy? Like I said, I'm not totally firm on that, but Golik, I don't see Vegas. There's so many clips in here that it really has to kind of think. Every time I flip back to it. But, so, we'll let Vegas think. But he's the bad guy. I don't know, this is just what I pictured. In fact, I kind of drew him sort of, kind of looking a little bit like an Edward G. Robinson kind of guy, so. And by the way, specifically, my idea was that I was going to play him as Edward G. Robinson the way he played the character of Dathan in the Ten Commandments. He's kind of the same character, actually. He's like this snaky guy who, no matter what's going on, he finds a way to sort of insinuate himself into the situation to his own advantage. So that's basically who Golik is. So I think that's why I was thinking along the lines of Edward G. Robinson. He's always sort of whispering in the ear of the king and giving him pretty bad advice a lot of the time, actually. But I penciled, scanned, and inked a 6-page story and then sent it to the colorist, so feeling pretty good. That's awesome, man. Well done, Steve Riggs. Let's all give Steve Riggs a metaphorical hand for that accomplishment. That's very cool. What software are you using for your comic work? Are you one of those Clip Studio Paint guys? Okay, so now it's kind of important that I start to lighten up a bit here. Yeah, Dave, lighten up, man. So I'm going to actually take this maybe a step forward. So we're starting to catch the light popping off the window. You think so, Ajax? I'm sure a lot of people think that. That leads me to believe you're a somewhat older gentleman than maybe some of the people that might be lurking around here. Because that's the type of sentiment typically an older person would perhaps express. But yeah, I love it. I love it. I love it. Edward G. Robinson. Earlier today I was making fun of that. The accent that's kind of derived from British English, but it was prevalent in American cinema up basically until after the war, where everyone sort of spoke like this. It really wasn't British. It was American English, but it was very much derived from British English. Sort of that erudite, you know what I'm trying to say. Boop, 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 boop. I picture guys like in the movie Frankenstein, Colin Clive, you know. I know he will be
He will be a true man. I know he will. Alive, he's alive, he's alive.
That type of thing. You guys remember that, right? Cullen Clive.
Please, Elizabeth, I beg you, you must leave. You cannot stay. It's too dangerous.
Oh, we do get silly around here at times, don't we? A little bit silly. Start doing funny voices. Doing voices like my Zap Brannigan voice. I love to do voices. How can you do cartoons if you're not into voices? Of course you are into voices. It'd be crazy not to be into voices. Let me see here. Yeah, we're going to catch a little... I think that's actually a little too bright, though.
If the truth be known, we must be a little bit careful. And we will actually have this dig in there a little bit.
Like so. And must be time-consuming to do comics the traditional... Pencil and paper. Dude! You have my respect, friend. But you know, the guys I know who do comics, actually, that's not that uncommon. That they definitely, the guys I know that are involved with comics, of which are really only two guys. What is Aaron's last name? It figures because I'm live on YouTube. My people I actually kind of know, their names are escaping me, which is kind of weird, but Kanan White, who I think kind of got a little bit of street cred in comics under the name of Kanan Gage. I think he was calling himself Kanan Gage there for a while, but Kanan White is a friend of mine. And then Aaron Minear, who I don't know if he's done a ton in comics, but okay. Yes. Well, that's what a lot of those guys do. It must be tough though with COVID. You can't do the cons, right? That's a sucky deal. Okay, this is somewhat controversial. What do we do here? What do we do? I want a little harsher shadow around here. So it's like we're picking up the highlight with the shadow. So that's cool, Steve. Are you, where can I see your work? You know, I'm a Carlos, see, I don't even know who that is. Yeah, Jim Lee, all those guys do the cons and sell their art. I don't blame them. I mean, what are you going to do? It's tough to make a living in comics, I should think. Carlos Esquera. Ooh, died in 2018. I'm looking at images. Okay, okay. That's cool. Some good stuff. Yeah, I am from the, okay, he created Judge Dredd. That is so cool. Yeah, I'm basically from the John Buscema, Frazetta type school. I mean, that's really where I come from in terms of the way I draw figures and stuff. I've really had to relearn how to draw in a style more consistent with like your anime and that kind of stuff. Because the John Buscema thing doesn't really work so well for this. That would be my assessment, however. I'm not quite in those guys' class, but that was really what I wanted to do when I was in high school, is draw comics. And then I got the music bug when I got into school, and I switched to telecommunications just because of the audio production aspect, and got hired. I was just doing jingles, doing jingles and doing the music thing there, man, I showed everybody the link, I don't know, sometime last week to one of my websites is jingles.us. We were talking about singing. I'm like, well, if you want to hear me sing, go there, because at Jingles US, I would say most of the jingles in the demo, or a lot of them, are me singing. Singing. A lot of different styles. It's good stuff. Love music. So when, of course, I did movies, I've joked that I got into making films because I wanted to score them. Well, I want to score a film, but nobody's really asking me to score their film, so I guess I'll make a film so I can score it. Not the craziest idea in the world, actually. Probably not the best idea, but Marvel and DC. Yeah, I really can't say I was familiar with the guy, but I just looked at him on the web, and looks like quite an accomplished creator. Not quite getting enough of the light here happening. You know the guy, Ben, what the heck is his last name? He wrote the 2 books, Fantasy Cartooning, and I can't remember what the other one was, something else cartooning. He only wrote 2 books, but they've sold really well. He's built a little cottage industry on these 2 books, but he's got a very cartoony style, and I've kind of moved more in that direction in the last few years. What the heck is Ben's name? I cannot remember Ben's last name. Fantasy Cartooning by Ben... Can't remember. Do. Guys, I think it's looking alright. I'm going to start picking up... Now look at this. This is where it gets kind of cool. I'm going to just start picking up a little bit of these... A little bit of that light from the window. Just kind of influencing these a little bit. Not horrible. We're almost kind of sort of, to a degree, selling the idea of a light cone without actually drawing the light cone, which I guess is kind of what that's basically what I'm trying to accomplish tonight. Like, what's the cool thing I'm hoping I can pull off? It would probably be that. I want to really make it feel like the light's coming in here and moving in a certain direction without actually cheating by just drawing the, you know, you could just draw a big shape in overlay mode, and, well, you could go like this, just go here and turn it white and go like this. You know, you could do that, put it in overlay mode, you know, things like that. So you go, man, dude, why in the world would you, like, do it the other way? Who knows? Something to do. I'm just having fun. Okay. How do we want to do the floor? I think... Caldwell. Thank you, Max. Thank you, sir. Yes, that's the guy. I like his style. I like the loose, silly... yeah, I think Ben's, in terms of where I'm headed cartooning wise, I kind of feel like Ben's got it going on. That's the direction I'm trying to move in. The way you're going, it adds texture. Yeah, it does. I think I'm gonna maybe, I'm considering though, on the floor, because there's 2 things I want to do. First of all, I think I should mask this up a bit and airbrush this, because I'm going to go ahead and loop this. So now I'm kind of cheating, actually, after all. But so let me see if we let's grab a brush, and now I want to go maybe 1, 2, 3 shades darker. Airbrush, where are you? Okay. Let's just... I tend to make a lot of stupid noises when I'm doing a somewhat delicate painting operation. I don't know why. I don't understand it. I don't know why. Okay. Now I'm actually gonna, I want to vignette this too, so sorry guys, I'm gonna go ahead and cheat here. Oh, don't want to do that. Hold on. Let's undo that. what I want to do is grab this tone, but I want to go again about 3 shades darker. And I think just to be safe, I'm going to do this in overlay mode so it punches this up a little bit. Yeah. This is where I'm saying to myself, okay, Dave, why the heck are you doing this the hard way, actually? Yeah, that's a fair question. Okay, I like the way that looks. I do like the way that looks. And I'm going to go, actually, I'm going to grab that color. And I'm going to cheat. Yep, that's what I'm going to do. Not too shabby. Not too shabby. Okay. So now, but there's a problem. And the problem is that this shade right here really, we should really be kind of hitting the, okay, I'm actually going to go back to normal mode here and hit undo a couple times. And that light would not really, you know, it's got to get out away from the wall before it's going to, okay, that didn't work. Does anyone understand what I'm trying to say? I don't know. Kind of working. It adds texture. Texture, yes, we must have texture. We want texture. Okay, so yes, okay, this is what I'm talking about. I want to just go in here like this. And I'm not trying to beat overlay mode to death, but I really think it probably is the answer because it creates a nice blend with the existing, whatever the underlying color is. And frankly, I want to do that up here too. You see what I'm doing? I promise you, this is something I had intended to do from the start. But we want to just, okay, so that's a little bit big. Not the greatest transgression ever, but I probably made those a little bit large-ish. Your work looks great. Thanks. I wish I could animate one of my published books. Hey, you got published books, though. That's cool, right? What are the published books? I'll check them out. Tell me what your published books are. I'll check them out. All right, and I'm going to kind of flip to the opposite here and go, Just a little texture, folks. Not too much. And it's almost like this. It's almost like where the light is reaching would pick up more specular highlights than the darker areas, right? So so you gotta tell us what your published books are so we can find out like how cool they are and stuff. Tried my hand at a short book trailer. Okay, well, there's nothing wrong. Yeah, Blender. Yeah, well, we use Blender around here. There's no doubt about that. I used Blender just today on my live stream earlier. I've been using Blender for 20 years, and I'm not kidding. 20 years. Okay, I'm just going to keep feeling this, folks, because frankly, this is working. If I was using real watercolor, I'd have to take a toothbrush and actually splash the screen. But that is looking pretty good. I say so myself. Oops, don't want to do that. I'm going to alpha lock it so I can't actually get outside the window. Okay. Bloodline the Untold series. Alright, I'll check it out. YS Books. Bloodline the Untold. So this is like fantasy type thing, is from judging from the title is what it sounds like. I have a friend who just published her first book. Bloodline the Untold on Amazon. There it is. So Sarah has become more comfortable living. I'm looking at number 6. Where is, that's probably number 1 right there. Mail Order Pride. Wow. Looks like you're a pretty prolific author. That's awesome, dude. I'm assuming it's a dude. Urban fantasy? Okay. Pauvre. Wow. Now we're getting into my generation. Yeah, POV Ray. Holy cow. Urban fantasy. What does urban fantasy mean? So it's not. It's modern. It's not in an earlier time. And you're a girl. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I've got a friend named. Well, her name is. I can't. I shouldn't say her name, but her published name is. If I recall correctly, I think that's her published name, and she just published a book that's like a. It's like a fantasy novel thing, and I actually intercepted her before she published it because I proofed it for her, you know, and I'm like April. I mean, okay, yeah, that's her first name is April, but anyway, I'm like, this has got, you know, there's some good stuff here, but there's a few things you gotta fix, you know, which I'm sure is probably pretty common for any author. But yeah, I've never published a. Well, I technically published a book because back in the early 2000s, when the Blender people wanted to create the Blender tutorial guide, Volume 2, they invited me to write several chapters of it, which I did, but mostly I've just written screenplays. So at this point, basically I've got my own movies plus, let's see, there's the one sci-fi one. There's obviously this show, which is only a 48-minute. 2 different screenplays I've written on commission for other, like, people who were producers. So I don't know. I've probably written a dozen screenplays. Well, there was the Angel Chronicles, and that never got made. I was gonna make it, and some things intervened. Some situations intervened. Okay, this is not bad. This is not bad. I suppose if we're not going to be stupid, we probably ought to put a sky in there. Now the sky, it's kind of early in the day, so let's do the airbrush thing and kind of smack that in there like that. So we're just letting a little bit of light sneak in there, and come on. Get down there. A little darker. Because it is early in the day. Kind of like dawn. Set in a modern day city, my characters are supernatural. YS Books. You know, and my partner Valerie's actually working on a story too right now. So Bloodline, Mail Order Bride. Is there anywhere or any way YS Books? Okay, hold on a second here. Okay, Stokes. Okay, why Stokes? Oh, you got a little picture here too. Your picture's really tiny, but you look... At the risk of asking a slightly inappropriate question, why Stokes? Can I ask you what your ethnicity is? Am I allowed to ask that? If that's a rude question, then don't answer it. Tell me I'm a jerk, and I will apologize for even asking the question. But I'm curious. There's like a tiny picture there, and okay, I thought so. My son's wife is black too. Yeah. Aileen is her name, and that is so cool that you're here. So now let me ask you why. What brings you here? Because obviously you're not. I mean, you're an author. I assume you're doing some kind of. I think you said earlier. Oh, you're looking at doing a short book trailer. Yes. Yeah, and book trailers are definitely a thing nowadays. Blender would be a really good tool to use for a book trailer. No doubt about it. I'm going to actually backpedal on this a little bit and maybe make this back to overlay mode because I really want to darken what's already there but keep the contrast happening. You want to learn how to animate? Well, you're not going to learn. I mean, you're only going to learn by watching here. If you want to learn, I always recommend people to go to if you want to learn some software and you're particularly interested in 2D animation, then Krita. I'm a Krita / OpenToonz / Blender person. So if you really want to know the ins and outs of the software, I often recommend this guy on YouTube because he's got a lot of tutorials for OpenToonz or Tahoma, which is really essentially the same program. One's a fork of the other. So I do try. I'm jabbering more tonight because I'm just painting. I'm not really animating. But normally, like when I'm doing this stuff, and it looks like Vegas is still thinking. Let me see if Vegas comes to life. Normally when I'm doing animation, I try to okay, yeah, Steve, for sure. What is it now? Yeah, it's 2 a.m. in England. So when I'm doing this kind of stuff, why? I'm pretty verbose to explain what I'm doing and how I'm doing it as I do it. And I've been live streaming for 5, 6, 7, 8 hours a day because oh, there it's back. Wow, that's annoying. That was probably the weirdest, wackiest OBS lockup in a long time. Okay, so let's put in, let's see what we have here. Okay, so Golik comes into the shot. I'm thinking the only thing that's bugging me, yeah, I'm back. Sorry about that. What was I saying? I'm sure it was fascinating. Directing a short film is different than writing. Yeah. Well, that I could teach you a lot about, having written and directed 8 feature films. That I know a lot about. Writing books. Actually my most successful film, I did you know, I did a book of it because I thought it might be, and I actually have not published it yet. I had a publisher that wanted to work with it, and okay, yeah, and I yeah, so I just haven't really gone down the publishing road so much. Okay, so what I'm trying to fix here is I really want to address this. Okay, so this is kind of a stupid shadow. Practically speaking, I'm shooting myself in the foot here. So I'm going to put the shadow under her because it'll just make life easier. And let's just make it opaque so I can see what I'm doing. And now I'm going to hit the G key and the E key. So actually, first I'm going to switch to the correct brush. And then I'm going to hit G key, E key so that I can chisel this out of here and really kind of get this out from under her like that. And then, just judging from what's going on with the light, really, the shadow is kind of stupid, really. This should really be more like this. And then again, let's chisel this stuff out from behind her. Yeah, sometimes you get into the picture and then you realize things that you could have improved. Now, I'm going to say a blur might not be a bad idea. Let's do a blur. And then let's also go, just hit Control F a couple times and we'll just keep repeating the blur because Control F just repeats the last effect. Okay, so now let's use the liquid. Yeah. Reconnection successful. Wow. It's like OBS has been pretty good all night and then all of a sudden acting totally stupid. So yeah, when I'm actually animating, I usually do more like a verbose description. So as I say, A key. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use the liquify tool to kind of stretch this shadow out a bit. Yes, that's better. I like that very muy mucho. All right, that's what I'm talking about. Okay. And we probably want to have a little bit of shoulder action there. And maybe squeeze that in so we're actually casting the shadow and kind of in perspective. And then we'll round out her head a little bit. So liquefy, liquefy, liquefy. And we'll just kind of marry that under her. And hey, there goes Valerie in the background. My beautiful princess. Okay, there it is. Who do you use for your voiceover? Well, what voiceover are you referring to specifically? I do a lot of it myself. I've been doing voice acting for a lot of years, and actually a lot of my commercial clients I do voiceover work, you know. Kind of been down that road for a lot, but so now if you're a voice talent, I do you know, send me an MP3, because at some point I'm going to need some voices who aren't me, you know, so I'm game for whoever's, like, you know, wanting to get involved. So if you're a voice talent, send me an MP3. Send it to Premier Media Design. Premier Media Design, actually premiermediadesign.com is my main, like, my commercial media business website. That's the business that's been kind of paying my bills for 30 years. But if you send an email to premiermediadesign@gmail.com, then I'll get that. Just don't be spamming me, baby. Don't be spamming. Spamming's bad. Oh, you need voiceover too. Oh, for your book trailer. Well, yeah, send me a link. Send me a link to the trailer. I'll check it out. I'd check it out. Yeah, I mean, I could do the, like, if you were looking for the traditional in a world type movie trailer voice, I can do that, but I'm not going to be able to do it. I would do it in the morning is what I would do, because the voice is a little deeper in the morning, tends to be. But yeah, I mean, I've done that. I've done trailers for my own films and blah blah blah. Most of the voice acting thing has come up here because I wrote a fan episode of Futurama, and then that's the guy that I put the link on, Darren T. He's actually, we're kind of exploring working on this fan episode of Futurama, and I had written it because I wanted to do all the voices, because I you know, actually recorded most of the voices, and so that's more character type stuff than traditional voiceover. But oh yeah, okay. It's only a video on your channel. Let me check it out. I'm checking it out right now. Since I'm such a socially adept guy, I'm gonna go jump over here. Well, I asked you about your book because again, I got another friend who's an author, and Val's always looking for a good book to read. YS Books. Okay, I'm checking out your book trailer. Okay, that's kind of weird. Oh. I would be inclined. Yeah, I know. Okay, yeah, so I mean, for me, I get what you're trying to do, and I certainly would, if I were you, if you really if you wanted to reflect well on the book, then it would be better to do something very, very simple. Okay? In other words, like if you have a flat comic book style drawing of the character, and they just fade in and out, but they're not really moving around or something. To do something simple really well is going to reflect better on the book than trying to do something ambitious poorly. Okay, so because your 3D is pretty cheeseball. So if you really, and the bottom line for me is, if I'm helping you, I'm saying, the only thing we care about is we want the best possible reflection on the book. So whatever we do, we want it to be crisp and professional and good, right? So when I look at your book covers, for example, and also the the visual effect at the end of your trailer, I've seen in 100 other things. So I mean, that's like stock footage, and it looks cool though. But it looks cool, so there's no fighting that. It does look cool. What is the what's the Bible connection here? This is actually quite interesting, just because of other things I've studied. Okay, like the Sumerian, the Sumerian mythology, and how that ties in with the Nephilim and all that kind of stuff is really pretty interesting. Pretty interesting stuff. And it's not covered very well in the Bible, but how does that tie in? It's okay, so it's the bloodline. So you're getting into the idea that those bloodlines are carrying in and are intermixed with modern man, that type of a thing. And so like there's like reptilians and things like that. Wow. Okay. Hey, that's cool. That's cool. There's a lot of ideas you can. Okay, so that's interesting, because the concept of this show, the dirty little secret of this show, actually, and the only biblical tie-in of the whole concept is the main character, because the main character's name is Melchizedek, and everybody calls him Mel, and this is not really a secret, and it isn't really even germane to the story, but when I came up with it originally, he's actually the high priest Melchizedek, right? Okay, that's cool. Samson and Delilah, nice. So Melchizedek is actually the young, Mel is the young Melchizedek, who later was the high priest that had the encounter with Abraham, right? But that's not in the story. I mean, I just picked him as a character because I wanted a cast of characters that are based in the period of time shortly after, like a few generations after the Great Flood. So you've got the world is repopulated, and you can just tell whatever stories you want to tell, because it's all just people stories, and you can just introduce any kind of themes you want, So it's really just a feel-good moral message type show, but coincidentally, the main character actually is secretly the Melchizedek that's mentioned one time in the Bible. So, yeah, pretty weird. Fun stuff. But all that stuff about all that stuff about the Nephilim or Nephilim, however you want to say it, and ancient aliens and all that stuff, that's all super cool stuff. She owns a strip club. Oh, really? Okay, so let me ask you this, and I'm asking you this very seriously. I'm not trying to be provocative here with you or anything, because my partner Valerie's been listening to some audiobooks that are fairly seedy, right? So my question is, are your books, do they get a little raunchy, or are they pretty straight-laced? If they're a little raunchy, Valerie might like reading them. We'll probably buy one and just check it out. That's funny. So, I mean, if she owns a strip club, I assume you're pretty, so you're getting into you're getting a little bit into the raunchy stuff, but you're also getting into the fantasy, the supernatural aspect. So yeah, I mean, that sounds like she actually might like one of those books. Is there a way we can check out the books, like online or something? Like in other words, how do you sell somebody on trying your books if they've never read them, the first time? Is Mail Order Bride the first one in the series? I'm going to buy one. I'm just going to buy one. What's the first one? Mail Order Bride? Is X-Ray the first one? I'm just going to do it. What the heck? Oh, you can look inside. So, Hmm. I'm okay. Okay, I can actually preview the. I'll preview it. Oh, Samson and Delilah is the first one. But that would be the recommended thing, right? Is you want to read the first one first, because I assume there's a continuity to your, you know, sort of your mythology. So I assume there's some continuity, but each book is relatively self-contained as well, right? Pretty much. Is that the game? Okay, cool. That's what you want. I mean, that's kind of what I'm doing. I mean, this is a 48-minute pilot, and the idea is that each episode will be a self-contained episode, but there's a whole epic that unfolds over 12 episodes, right? And so there's definitely an epic to it, but you kind of want the episodes to stand alone too, with the beginning, middle, and end, and kind of a moral lesson or something. So I intend to touch upon a lot of social issues, like, oh, there's definitely going to be one episode about women's issues. There's going to be one episode about, I think I'm gonna play around with the alt-right mythologies that are going on right now that have infected some very good friends of mine, actually, one friend in particular. The idea that you can create this mythology and feed on people's fears, you know, so some socio-political commentary should be a lot of fun. So, okay, so Samson and Delilah. So if I click on Y Stokes, that should take me to the first. Oh yeah, here we go. There she is. Huh. Make money selling paper. So you've been writing for a long time. Oh, that's good to know. So you're saying Samson and Delilah is the first one. I'm going to check that one out, and I may just buy a copy and have Valerie read it. Because, you know, you just never know if things take off. I was talking the other day to the artists out there that are following me, that, you know, the way I've got this thing mapped out. And by the way, I'm kind of wasting everyone's time here because, frankly, this shot is probably done. Let me just play this. Yeah, that's it. We're only going to do, let's just do 20 frames, and we're going to cut it into the show and see how it looks. But, you know, if this show gets some traction, I mean, I know it's going to get, I'm extremely confident that the distribution's going to happen. But if it gets some traction with an audience, then I may want to try to accelerate the production time frame from what is essentially a 3-month production cycle. You know, I'd love to be able to crank it down to a month or even a week, but it would require a team of, I estimate 6 to 8 people. So I already talked to Darren T about maybe I gotta send him a little test scene that he can color. So anyway, let's do this. But I want to dip my toes into that arena carefully, so that we don't hurt people by okay. Yeah, I mean, mocap might help. I don't think, I'd almost have to sort of scan the book, but I don't think that's probably the strategy I would employ for your book trailer. I'd have to think about it. I would have to think about it. But the other thing, too, is that you're... Okay, so the trailer is not for any of the books. It's for the series. I got you. Alrighty, then. Alright, so let's cut this into the show and see what we've got. So I'm going to pull over here. No, that's good. It's always good to know competent authors, and the thing I really like, what I see with you there on Amazon, is you're prolific. You've done a fairly decent amount of work, and that is something. That is definitely noteworthy. You're not just flying by night and talking about, you know, getting a book published. You and I both know that any idiot can get a book published. That doesn't mean it's going to sell any copies. In fact, usually it doesn't. Am I right? Yeah, I'm right. Okay, so cool. Let's pop that out of there, and let's just see how the flow is happening here. Okay, So we come in, and we're pushing in towards the prison cell, and then we hear clankety clank, boom, and there's Golek. Yeah, boom, cut. There we go. She looks up. That's it. We're done. All right. What time is it? 8:28. So, yeah, my advice to you, honestly, I'm just spitballing, and you certainly don't have to listen to me. What do I know, right? Now I do know how to make trailers. I mean, if you look on my YouTube channel, you will see the trailers for all the films that I've written and directed. So I know how to cut a trailer. Okay, trust me on that. If I were you, I would get rid of the 3D completely. The 3D, the thing about it is what you're trying to do, the initial image, like when you first do the trailer, the initial image, which really isn't animated, that works okay. Okay, the first 7 seconds works okay. Once you start having the people move, you're making the viewer is going to look at that and go, these books are probably cheeseball and stupid, because the animation stuff is robbing your perceived production value. So if you kept it simpler, but what's there is just really good, strong imagery, it would sell the concept better. But you can look. I think there's actually. I think I created a. There's a playlist here on my YouTube channel of trailers for my movies, so you can kind of see what I'm talking about as far as movie trailers go. But book trailers are usually quite a bit lower budget affair, obviously. Okay, so the question is, are we going to start this shot with Tianara? Well, we are going to get it into Krita, that's for sure. The question becomes, I'm still working. Yeah, I mean, it's not too late. 8:30, I'm just doing what I do. So, I've just been blabbing with YS Books about the books she's authored. So, but I'm definitely going to check them out on Amazon and see if they grab me, you know. And that's the way I'm with. But let me tell you something about authors, okay? I'm gonna say this to you too, Ms. Stokes. I had because of my filmmaking cred, you know, my street cred, I get people a couple times a year for sure approach me and say, "Hey, I've written a screenplay and I'd like to make it into a movie," or they'll say, "I want to write a book," or I've written a book. I say, would you review it and give me some feedback? This is what happens. This has happened more times than I can count. Just telling you a story here. Just telling you a story. And so what happens is I'm like, yeah, sure, you know, that's fine. Send me a PDF. I'll check it out, whatever. So then the person sends me a PDF. So this one girl, like 2-3 years ago, she tells me she's writing a book. I'm like, I'm trying to encourage her. And I said, and she was like, but she had a concept and she was working on it. So I said, okay, well, when you got your book, you know, I'll be happy to take a look at it, blah, blah, blah. Well, a couple of years goes by. This girl, she's like, hey, I'm back, you know, I've got my books written, blah, blah, blah. Are you still willing to check it out? I said, yes, absolutely. I would love to look at your book, and I will be happy to give you my honest feedback. Just be aware I'm going to give you my honest feedback. So she sends me her book. And I open the book, and on page 1, I'm noticing a definite, her main character has a very distinctive voice that is a little cheeseball. I won't say why. I won't even say why, because that would sort of give away what the genre of the book is. But the lead character had a voice that was a really, really stilted kind of voice, where I'm like, geez, I don't know, really, most people don't really talk that way. But okay. But I said to myself, that's okay if she's organically developing why this character talks that way, so it naturally makes sense in the context of the story. I'm fine with that. It can be a weird character if there's a reason for it. So I said, okay, so we'll see what happens. So I said, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to turn to the middle of the book. Okay? I'm just going to flip to the middle of the page, and here's what I'm afraid of. I'm going to flip to the middle of the page, and what I'm going to discover is that all the characters talk that way. that they all have the same stilted voice that says nothing about the characters but says everything about the author. And sure enough, I couldn't believe it. I flipped to the middle of the book, and there it is. There's a completely different character. The other one was female. This one's male. They're just two characters, and they both have this same way of talking. Again, I won't tell you what that way of talking is because it's not really relevant to what I'm saying. So immediately, I'm like, I email her. I said, look, here's the thing. I really want to help you here, but I got to tell you this. You got two characters in your book who both have the exact same voice. I said, so you wanted my advice. Here's my advice. You need to stop everything. Do not publish your book, please, because you're going to sell 4 copies. I'm telling you. Stop everything. Go back. You've got to do a rewrite. You need at least one rewrite here. And what you need to do is you need to rewrite all of your dialogue, and you've got to give all your characters different voices. So that by the way they talk, I can tell who's who kind of thing, right? She didn't respond. Never heard from her again. I'm like, yeah, okay, you're going to sell 4 copies of your book. Good luck with that. That's what happened. She couldn't handle actually getting honest feedback. So I tell that story because a lot of people are that way. They're sensitive souls. I get that they're sensitive souls. And I would not have told her that unless I knew for a fact, girl, you really need a rewrite. Bad. All of which is to say, if I'll probably know by looking at the preview on Amazon if I want to buy the book. And if it grabs me, I'll buy the book. Making no promises. We make no promises here. Okay, so what we need to do now is we need to get out of here. This isn't where I want to be. I want to go back to my... Boom. Let's drag this sucker into Krita. But no, I've got a little soft spot in my heart for authors, because I kind of know where you're coming from. Boom, 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 boom. Let's bake these guys down and save this. And now it gets saved also as a Krita file because I stuck that other layer in there. And now we can perhaps forge ahead. Now, what are we going to do here on the pencil test side of things? I think what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and put a keyframe in here. And in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move her in reverse, and then I'm going to reverse the frames. So we know that we're going to generally want a half a second when we enter the scene to let things breathe a bit. So we get into the scene, and then what we're going to do is we're going to move her. So now I've been kind of following this rule lately, which is do not try to cut this up into pieces, but rather let's just redraw the thing. Okay, so I'm going to let her put her head down. So we're going to insert a key, and let's just move, man. Let's rock and roll here. Let's rock and roll. Whoops. So I'm going to have her lean down, although in the show what she's going to do is she's going to obviously be leaning forward. I mean, she's going to be already down, and then... So... So let's just get the rough motion in, and then we'll deal with the details. Insert. But yeah, I was bummed about that girl because I really wanted her book to be successful too, and she couldn't handle just being told the truth. Now well, see, the thing about UYS books is that I have a little better feeling about you because you've written so many. The fact that you've got 6 books in the series already is awesome. That means that you've probably dealt with having an editor, you know, hopefully who knows what the hell they're talking about, and hopefully you've dealt with, you know, receiving constructive criticism. It's very, very important. You know, it's the trick is, how do you really help somebody preserve the integrity of their idea and not injure the idea? Because usually the ideas are fine. It's like I've said here when I talk to the people while I'm drawing here. I switched there. I just switched to OBS Classic because I have never seen OBS actually lock up the way it just did. That is not cool. Not cool at all. So unfortunately, because I switched to OBS Classic, no more webcam. No more webcam for you. No webcam for you people. Sorry. But that's okay. So YS Book says she's not giving up. I believe ya. I believe you're not giving up. That's good. Why should you give up? Well, when I get into conversations with people about these sorts of creative things, I tend to go pretty all business real fast. You know, like, I'll ask pretty pointed questions, which I'm not going to do here on YouTube, or about how much money have they made, because actually you kind of get a bead on somebody's real I don't know. It's a lot different with first-time authors than it is with people who have a little more experience, obviously. This. My biological mother's husband just wrote a book. It's pretty good. Pretty good. He actually did the same thing. He actually had me sell more books in person. Yeah. Oh golly, you've got to do it online now. Definitely. So we'll let her eyes. Yeah, we'll give her her eyes in this shot, but here we got to angle this baby down and. Okay, so if you're selling books in person, well, how's Amazon worked for you? Has that been okay? Because, see, the whole thing is, I guess the point I was making, without getting around to making it, is that what a lot of authors have a hard time dealing with is the fact that, the getting published today is stupidly easy. I mean, anybody can actually publish a book on Amazon. That's no offense to you, but I mean, it's true. Anyone can publish a book on Amazon. So it's not a question of can you publish a book. It's a question of whether you're selling any books. And so the thing that obviously everybody struggles with is, well, how do I promote my book? So the book trailer concept is definitely helpful. Can be quite helpful. I guess we don't want to be in erase mode. Candidly for me, in the film space, I really haven't done diddly to promote my films. I've left that to my distributor, and they do an okay job. But I don't have a strong social media presence or anything like that. I just do the YouTube streaming just because, not really for any particular reason, truthfully. It's kind of fun. It's been fun chit-chatting with people while doing the work, because, it's like I'm going to do the work. I might as well make it fun. But most authors I've talked to, and I've talked to quite a few, they definitely struggle with the marketing side of it. Now, every once in a while you get somebody who really enjoys that, who just spends a lot of time out mixing with people, and of course with COVID-19 it's pretty difficult, but most of them do struggle quite a lot with how to... Okay, there you go. Hey, whatever works, This is... Okay, so we really have some anatomical problems here. So the solution here, folks, is erase it, erase it, and just start over. Don't keep crap. Don't keep crap around. Don't do it. Nope. Just get rid of it. Boom, gone. Okay, so why did that happen? Well, we got this arc right here. This arc right here. So basically, you could say underneath here there is a skull, right? Okay, so now this is kind of popped around, so that would be more like that. And I would say we basically don't need this fourth key. We're beating a dead horse putting that key in there. Okay, so now I'm going to just reverse this. I'm going to mirror these guys. Mirror frames. So this will be copied here. Well, actually, you don't have to copy it. Just go like that. So that means her head is down, and then she just lifts up. Boop. Golik walks in the room. Bloop. That's it. Easy. Easy peasy. Okay, I see. Well, that makes sense. So you find you've got... Okay, so you're finding you've got a good reader loyalty in the sense that once people just... If you can just get them to read your book, they tend to come back for more. That's priceless. I mean, that's really good. That's super cool. You should be grateful. Well, that's the way it was for me with the movie. Because the first chick flick horse movie was quite successful. Because of that, the sequel has done, you know, reasonably well. Now this, oh boy. Yep, you gotta win them over, baby. You gotta win them over. If you can win them over, have them for life. At least maybe. Okay, nose. No, that's a little high, actually. I really want to get this right. This is a tough angle, actually. It's a tough angle. How are we doing on time? 8:47. Probably wrap it up here pretty soon. But this is a tough angle. Tianara, she's so beautiful. She is so beautiful. I love Tianara. I do, I do, I do, I do, I do. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, and she would be probably looking up on the... Okay, so she would be... There we go. That's TNR. Oh, she pretty. Love TNR. Alright, it really helps when you like your character. Boy, it does. Hey, Maria, you're here. I can hardly stay for long. Got theater stuff to do. Okay, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, there's gotta be a lot of theater action going on in New York. Speaker sold the really helps when you like your character. Yes. Well, good to see you here, Maria. I have enjoyed your presence, and certainly you always have positive, cheerful things to say, I've noticed. And that is not true of everyone, so Maria Torres from Brooklyn, she told me. I'm allowed to say that, right? You don't care. You said it publicly on YouTube anyway, so.
Oh no, don't tell them that. Don't tell them that.
I'm kidding. Alright, so boom, boom, boom. So we got to get this curvature of her cheekbones coming around. Ah! There's the cheekbone. Alright, now it's starting to... I'm seeing the volume, the 3D volume of this. There. That's pretty much it. Pretty much it. Yeah, Brooklyn. You know, the stupid thing is, even though my son's in New York, I've never actually been there. It's like I said, I've been to Chicago when he went to school there, but I've never gotten out to New York yet. They've lived in Manhattan for, gosh, a couple, 3 years now, I'd say. He's one of the top, he's actually one of the tippy top, might be the top, performing personal trainers for one of the largest health clubs. It's the same health club it's the same club that Jeff Bezos trains at, actually. Now my son hasn't trained Jeff Bezos, but it's the same club. I don't know what it's called. It's in Manhattan. They've got locations all over the place, but he's quite a successful personal trainer. And his wife just got her what'd she get her master's? She got her master's and she's going to be working in high finance for one of the top investment banks. So, yeah, they're pretty much set for life. That's cool. Good stuff. They've worked very hard to earn it too, and actually, my son's working on he's working on 2 additional master's degrees of his own, as a matter of fact. So, yeah, this is actually looking pretty good. I'm feeling successful because what I did right here was I got the 3D volume of it right. I mean, I got this curvature around as you're looking down. That is a really tough pose to draw. It's actually, this tween isn't even as good. This pose looks great, and this one doesn't matter much. I just gave her too much cheekbone, but this one doesn't matter because it's only going to be on the screen for 1 frame, like literally. So you got bloop, right? So we can be a little more forgiving with this particular pose. So thanks for indulging my did I go out again? I'm back. I know, OBS making me mad. I'm in the Northeast too. Okay, nice. I'm sorry, guys. Yeah, he does. He loves what he's doing. He has some goals. He is a motivated dude. And I love him as if he was my own son. Oh, wait, he is. Yeah, I got 2 sons. Got the one son, and I got the other son. The other son's 18. And the older son's 32 this year. So yeah, we had a 10-year break. We had my son and then my daughter, who's going to be 30 this year, and then Kyle came along 10 years later. Surprise! He's a great guy. He's developing a web development business right now. With COVID-19, for his senior year of high school, he's actually bootstrapping a business, which I think is so cool. So I've kind of coached him a lot. Coachy, that's what I do. Maria's sending out love, it looks like. Maria, you're just a sweet person. I can tell. I know you are. Watch, it turns out she's actually a serial killer. It could happen. It could happen. You just never know what you're going to get when you're online. Okay, I think Valerie's coming through. Yeah, Valerie's coming through, so I'm going to quit. I'm going to go hang out with Valerie. YS Stokes, whatever your name is, I'm going to check out your book. I'm going to open it up, read it, and if it's even slightly good, I'm going to buy a copy because I think the style you're writing, I think Valerie might like it. So with that, I will call it a night. Yeah, exactly. And you guys all have a good night. And as you know, as I always say, there will be more later. Good night.